Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is your Tech Guy Podcast. The show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, November 20th, 2022. This is episode 1946. Enjoy. The Tech Guy Podcast is brought to you by Collide. Collide is an endpoint security solution that uses the most powerful, untapped resource in IT, end users. Visit collide.com/twit to learn more and activate a free 14-day trial today. No credit card required. Thanks for listening to this show. As an ad-supported network, we are always looking for new partners with products and services that will benefit our qualified audience. Are you ready to grow your business? Reach out to advertise@twit.tv and launch your campaign now. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. Yes, I'm sorry. You were listening to a nice gardening show, and all of a sudden some guy comes on, a geek, and he wants to talk about tech. That's it. That's what's happening. This is it, the show where we talk about computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We talk about smartphones, smart watches, augmented reality, smart cars, all the future that we're living in today. It is kind of, isn't it? A little science fiction-y, the world we live in. It creeps up on you so gradually, you don't really know. But, we're talking about cars that drive themselves. Waymo, which is Google's self-driving car company, just got permission in San Francisco for even more, self-driving, no driver inside, fully driverless rides. Now, that's science fiction. That's straight out of Westworld. The California Public Utilities Commission granted Alphabet-owned Waymo a permit, because you have to have a permit. You have to have a permit to cut hair. Of course, you have to have a permit to drive a car without a driver. To participate in the CPUC's driverless pilot program. You can transport passengers. So this has got to be a weird experience. I think Sam talked about this. He had the experience. Well, he'll be joining us in a little bit, our car guy. It's like I guess it's like an Uber where you have the app and you call it and it pulls up and there's no one in it. It still looks like a car. They still have steering wheels and brakes and stuff. And I guess if you had a problem, you could leap over into the front seat and take I don't know. I don't know what you would do. To me, that would feel very helpless. You're in the back seat of a vehicle with no human conducting it. Waymo can't charge you for those rides. Okay, fine. What a silly little thing. No, you could do it, but you can't charge anybody for it. Well, that'll be safer for sure. Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand why you can't charge. DMV, the California Department of Motor Vehicles, had already given him permission earlier in the week. So now it's done. There will be no safety driver. That's scary. San Francisco, Los Altos Hills, Mountain View, Palo Alto, and Sunnyvale. In the coming weeks, Waymo says, you can have it's like I don't go on roller coasters either. It's like an amusement park ride. Let's see what happens. Get in the back seat. Let's go for a ride. Now, there are humans at some point in the chain. The robot's driving you, but if the robot at any point gets confused, there's somebody back at the home office who'll get on Zoom with the car. Well, it's probably not Zoom, but get on something like Zoom. And this happened to Sam. Because there's also, and I like this, a big safety button. I wonder what it looks like. I haven't seen a picture, but I imagine it's like a big red button in the passenger area that says, get me out of here, or something. And you hit it, and the car stops. I presume stops safely. It's not just going to stop in the middle of the road, but it stops. And a guy comes on the screen and says, what's that? Hello? What's going on, man? And you say, yikes. Now get ready for this. The cars are allowed to travel up to 65 miles an hour. Now I'm really scared. 65 miles an hour. And here's a good line from the Verge article about this. And while AVs are what, automated vehicles, autonomous vehicles. AVs typically struggle to perform in poor weather conditions. Waymo's working to address this. How are they addressing it? By collecting data about different conditions and then using it to inform the computer. You can in San Francisco, you can get in. There's competitors. GM has its Cruise autonomous vehicle program. So you can get in a Cruise vehicle. I think they don't have drivers either. Ain't doing it, but I'll ask Sam. I just, what do you think? It sounds like a bad idea. It sounds scary. Sounds really scary. Layoffs. That's all we've been talking about in tech. I just want to reassure people, tech is not dying. It's not going away. Well, I don't know. Does that reassure you? Maybe that's the opposite. I don't know. But these kinds of things happen when you have a giant buildup. And that's what happened. In January 2020, well, March is when I guess the pandemic really hit, right? Companies didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody's all worried. Well, we're going to shut. But the companies didn't worry about it were the companies you use for Zoom, the internet, all this stuff, because suddenly you're stuck at home, working from home if you're lucky. And so tech companies literally made trillions of dollars during the pandemic and hired commensurately. So they all grew like Topsy. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they all just grew. And then, okay, the pandemic's over. And all those people are going to get fired because they don't need them anymore, I guess. And the tech stocks come crashing down. Although if you look at the tech stocks, they're still higher than they were in January of 2020. So they went really, really high because everybody thought, oh, tech's the next, this is the savior, it's the next big thing. And then the pandemic ends, people go, oh, no, it's just the world is back a little bit back to normal. And yeah, some people are still working from home and stuff like that. So the companies kind of let go of those people. But they're still, you know what, they're still making money. In fact, they're making a lot of money. They're just not making as much as they did during the pandemic. Well, one exception, and I guess I have to say the T word, Twitter. What the heck is going on with, I mean, this is, I can't wait to watch the TV series about Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter. It is the best soap opera. But I have to say it's sad in one respect because, and I wasn't a huge Twitter fan. I really wasn't ever. I was in the early days, but after a while it became obvious that, I don't know, it was bubblegum for the mind. And what really became obvious is that the company that was running Twitter, this is pre-Elon Musk, and this happens everywhere. It happened to Facebook too, realized that the way for them to make money was to grab you and keep you as long as possible, right? And so and YouTube does the same thing. They turn the algorithms loose, the computer software loose. And they said, whenever you see somebody spending more time on something, that's good. TikTok does this better than anybody. Whenever you see somebody spending more time on that thing, give them more like that. And then go out and look at what other people who also spend more time on that thing they like. And, so it's this great computer program that's analyzing all the data and optimizing. What's it optimizing for? You spending more time looking at the site. Meta does it, Facebook does it, Twitter does it, YouTube does it, TikTok do it. TikTok do it? They all do it. All of them. There is a side effect to this, though. If you just let the computer do it untrammeled, is it gets more and more outrageous, because it turns out what keeps people watching is when you get that feeling and you get angry and you're I'm outraged. And that's what ended up happening at Twitter. I said, I'm out. Everybody on there is outraged. Hot takes after hot take after people fighting an outrage. It turned into a bar brawl. So a few years ago, I kind of really backed off. In fact, for a while, I just left. And I said, well, because here's the thing. There's valuable stuff on Twitter. It's a great way to see what's going on in the world, to get the news, to hear from friends. And if you have a group on Twitter of like-minded people, it's a great way to communicate with them. So Twitter has a lot of value. Unfortunately, that value is being burned fast. And here's a crazy theory. My friend Wesley Faulkner suggested this, and when he said it, I said, oh, yeah, I think you're right. So Elon, in a fit of pique last spring, he bought a bunch of Twitter stock. And then in a fit of pique, I don't think he really thought it through. He said, all right, I'm going to buy it. And he made an offer way above what Twitter was worth, $44 billion. Way. So it's like, how can we make this like the real world? So you see this car driving, and you think, that's a beautiful car. This happened to me. I saw a car at one of the trade shows. I want that car. Can't afford it. Finally, I said, I'm going to buy it. And that's what happened. Then Elon, and furthermore, he said a bad thing. Elon does not listen to the lawyers, obviously. He does his own thing. I'm the richest man in the world. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to buy that thing. I don't care how much it costs. In fact, and this was his mistake, I don't even want to do what they call due diligence. I don't need to look at the books. I'll take it as is. So it's like, you saw this car you drive, and say, can I have that? I'll buy that car. I'll pay twice what it's worth. And I don't care if there's any mechanical defects. I'll buy it. Then, just like any normal human, the next day he goes, what did I do? Oh, my goodness. And he starts going back to the owner saying, this car, it has no wheels. And the owner says, you said you didn't care. We got a contract. No, but the car's steering wheel is on the right. I can't. Doesn't matter. You said we had a deal. And he says, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I can't drive. I can't. I know I told you I would spend twice what it's worth without any, mechanical inspection. I don't care. I made a mistake. I'm out of it. And the seller says, no, you're not, and went to court. And this is where it got really hard for Mr. Musk, because it was becoming more and more apparent the court was going to make him buy it. Oh, man. Now, Elon already got the loan for the car. He's some of his own money, some of it from banks, some of it from some sketch places like the Saudi sovereign fund from Saudi Arabia. Not sure I really want them to own Twitter, but they do. Some of it from his buddies, Larry Ellison, the guy who owns Oracle. Said, how much you want, Elon? You want $1 billion? We've seen these messages. Elon says, I need $2 billion. He says, no problem. Here's $2 billion. Can you imagine? Yeah, here's $2 billion, Elon. Go burn it. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Can you imagine being that rich? It's wild. Anyway, Elon has to buy the car, so he buys it. It's a clunker. He can't drive it. It's a problem. He spends all his waking hours worrying about this thing. Is a nightmare. What am I going to do? Problem is he has these big loans. So this is what my friend Wesley said, and I think he's right. Elon says the only way to get out of these $13 billion in loans, he's got $1.3 billion in interest to pay every year on the loan, just the interest, not the principal. Imagine having that. Every year you have to pay $1 billion. You know how you get out of that? Bankruptcy. Bankruptcy. So there's a school of thought that says this is what... It's really hard looking at what Elon's doing with Twitter to even understand it. But this is the school of thought. He's just going to drive it into the ground. He's going to make it bankrupt. And then he can default on all those loans. I don't know. I don't know how finance works. I couldn't say, yeah, here's $2 billion in a text message. So I'm the wrong guy to ask. It's just not looking good, is it? 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number, 888-827-5536. We will talk cars with Sam Abuelsamid coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have a great day today. Rod Pyle on space, the Artemis launch. I can't wait to talk about that. That's later in the show. Your call's next. Hello, Sam. So Waymo got permission, so now you can get in 2 empty vehicles in San Francisco, Waymo or Cruise. But you did it.
Yeah,
it wasn't too terrifying.
I did it. Yeah. No, it wasn't terrifying at all. But I mean, yeah. I've done this a lot over the last 15 years. So it wasn't really something new for me, and it wasn't a particularly shocking experience for me. But But I'll talk a little bit more about how the rules are set up and why they can't charge right now, because CPUC has a 2-stage approval process. So the first permitting stage, they're allowed to do driverless testing and carry passengers without charging for it. And then at some point after that, they can grant them the permit for actually carrying passengers that they charge.
That's the funny thing. They can't charge them. Like somehow that makes it better. you can put people in a 2-ton tin can without a driver, but you just can't charge them.
Well, in the case of Cruise, for example, what Cruise did is they didn't bother to carry members of the public while they were in that first phase where they couldn't charge. They made the service available just to their employees.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Waymo
has their trusted tester program, which is basically kind of a closed beta, where it is members of the public, but you have to sign up and get approved. There's a long waiting list to get into the trusted tester program. But my guess is within probably 3 or 4 months, CPUC will give them the permit to actually charge for rides. And the reason why the 65 mile an hour is, for doing runs down to the airport, for example, to go to SFO and heading down the 101.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's a big business, right?
They can drive at highway speed.
Yeah, 65.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering what the 65 was for. You can't do that anywhere in the city. In fact, you can't do it on a lot of the freeways, but you can do it on 280, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, 280 and 101, you can drive 65 as well.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Well, I don't know what you want to talk about. I like that vehicle behind you, whatever it is.
That is that's the purpose-built robo-taxi that Waymo's been developing with a Chinese company called Zeekr.
Cool.
So that's going to eventually replace the Jaguar I-Paces and the Chrysler Pacificas that they've been using.
I'm just going to vent a little bit about my Ford dealer.
Okay.
So now a big light has come on in my car. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. That says, it says something completely silly. That's the funny thing about it. It says that there is a fault, a frunk fault, a fault in my frunk. And so I go on to Reddit, because this is like kind of scary to see what this is. And they said, yeah, if the dealer had read the manual for the update they did, they would have known you update both systems or you will get this message. So now, because the morons didn't.
Yeah. Okay. I think I can explain what this is all about.
Oh, you know. Well, you don't have to.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right. We got to go. Talking to 10. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Call me. Actually, don't call me. Call her. Kim Schaffer is at the other end of 8888 Ask Leo. You're just going to sit there and look funny at me, aren't you? You're mad, aren't you? You're mad at me, aren't you, for retiring? I can tell.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
And it's funny how a choice you don't make affects me more than probably everybody else.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
But yeah.
But you don't work for me.
No, and there's definitely blurred lines and confusion there.
There's blurred lines.
Because a lot of people think that I do.
No, you work for the radio company.
And I haven't even been informed by them yet. And that's how radio goes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, that's why I told you ahead of time, so you would have time to find out.
I wasn't really expecting yesterday to happen the way it did because
I wasn't either.
I thought that I would hear from, my boss.
Well, maybe that's not their fault. I kind of jumped the gun because they said we're putting out a press release on Monday, and I thought, well, I want to announce it before they do.
Yeah, well,
so,
I don't blame you.
Actually, and I didn't even announce it. I let somebody else announce it.
Yeah, you did.
Kim, who should we start the show with?
Let's go to Chip in Newport Beach. He's got some dash cam
questions. Dash cam questions. Thank you, Ms. Schaffer. Thank you. And we'll stay in touch. We'll let everybody know what you're up to because everybody loves you. Chip on the line from Newport Beach. Hi, Chip. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. First, thanks for all the years of help with technology.
My
It's
pleasure.
been great.
We use the word retire. I'm not really retiring. I'm just leaving the radio show. And my wife keeps saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, because I still do 6 podcasts a week. I'm plenty busy, including a Tech Guy podcast." So I'm not going away. If you like hearing my voice, I don't know why, but if you do, there's plenty of opportunity. Anyway, what can I do for you?
Well, I'm 71, and driving, I haven't had a ticket in over 30 years, but I have had 2 accidents in the last 7 years. Neither was my fault, but in each case, they tried to point a finger of blame at me.
Oh, yeah, the insurance company, the first thing they do is say, well, it's your fault, because they don't want to pay. They want the other guy's insurance. Yeah. So
if I had a good dash cam,
yes,
that would be something on my side.
Yes.
Now, a few years ago, you talked about the Owlcam, and then you told us that they were having some problems, and they sort of kind of went away, but now they're back, and their website is up, and they're selling cameras. And I was just wondering, do you think they're good, or maybe somebody else? And if somebody else has an idea, in the chat room, I've got the chat room open.
Oh, good. The chat room's always good. So I don't know anything about this new company. I'm glad they brought it back because a lot of us, me included, spent a lot of money on the dash cam, or the Owlcam, because it was included cell service, so it was more expensive up front. I don't know anything about this new company. I don't know, I would hate for you to buy it and then go through the same thing again. So I think it's good news for anybody who already owns an Owlcam, but I wouldn't recommend it anymore. What I would recommend is a visit to the Wirecutter, wirecutter.com, and look at their dash cam reviews. They say they like something called, I've never even heard of, called the Van True N4. But the reviews are valuable because it tells you what you're getting. So do you want parked car monitoring? Do you only want monitoring while you drive? Do you want monitoring going forward and looking at you? Do you want GPS tracking? There's all sorts of features, and different cameras have different features. The Owlcam I liked because it had built-in cellular, and so it would upload pictures. So even if it got stolen, you'd have pictures of the person stealing it. If there was an accident, it would be uploading pictures immediately. So even if the camera in the long run got damaged by the accident or whatever, there would be images right up to that point. So there were a lot of nice features about that, but I hesitate to recommend them because I don't know about this new company, what the long-term future holds. So it's good news for those of us who own Owls, but not good news, I think, in general. Garmin makes an excellent one for about $110. That's about a third what Owl was charging. I don't know what they charge today. There's a Van True for $80. So my suggestion, I'm not an expert, but I think you're right to get one. I think that's really smart. Go to the Wirecutter and look at their dash cam reviews. I think they're trustworthy. Speaking of cars, Sam Abuelsamid coming up. Yeah, I think I keep meaning to do that. The funny thing is I had the Owlcam on for 3 years or something, and nothing ever happened. But I guess that's what you want, right? Chip, you want it to be there in case something happens.
I like all those features. That's really nice.
Yeah.
And my car is electric. It's a Prius Prime, and I drive it mostly electric. It's nice hybrid backup too.
Yeah.
But around here where I live, there are a lot of burglaries, a lot of car thefts, and it's just getting like the Wild West here. And with something like the Owlcam, I sort of got somebody on my side.
Exactly, because
a bunch of other cameras.
If somebody stole your car, because the Owlcam's always is uploading, even though the car's gone and the camera's gone, you would have images of it being stolen. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Parked car monitoring is one of the features you definitely want. I wonder if there's anybody, though, offering... Yeah, see, I don't think a lot of them offer what the Owlcam did, which was that 3G connectivity. That's such a nice feature.
Yeah.
Because then it's uploading even if you lose the camera. I have no reason not to trust these new owners. It seems like they've put money into it. So now it's $225. Well, that's not bad for one cam. Does that include the...
Yeah, it used to be $300.
Yeah, I spent a lot.
$300.
Spent a lot. Does it upload though these days?
The annual is higher.
That's it, because they have to pay for that.
49.
Yeah, that connectivity. That's the deal, right? Yeah, they still have 4G, which is great. Sam, do you have an opinion on these dash cams? Do you have one that you like?
I don't use a dash cam, and I haven't really spent any time messing with them. I actually have one that I got that I've been meaning to try out, but haven't really done anything with yet. But the thing is, like you said, it's kind of like insurance. You pay for it and pay for it and pay for it, but you hope you'll never actually have to use it. And that's kind of what you're doing with this. You're treating it as insurance. Where you're hopefully, if something happens, if somebody steals your car or vandalizes your car, you'll catch it. But, ideally, you don't actually want to have to deal with that.
I think probably, Chip, the Owlcam is probably what you want because it has those features if your car gets stolen.
Yeah, most of them are not connected.
Yeah.
So, they just store onto it.
That's what put them out of business, because they basically, you paid once and you got this LTE connection. They didn't charge a subscription. So I think they're smart now. They've kind of, you $15 a month for the connection. The cameras are cheaper. Looks like the same camera, by the way. It doesn't look like they've changed the hardware.
I think it is.
Yeah. I loved the hardware. I've been meaning to re-up. Right. And so I should try that. The problem is they have the same kind of problem that the original Owlcam had with the business model. And if this company decide, their real business, as it was with the Owl, I think, is for fleets. And if they decide, we don't want to support consumers anymore, then you could be another, expensive camera that's not you. I feel burned. Can you tell?
Yeah, it's not like with the Kindle
and not 32.
Yeah, how many times have I been burned right now? So you kind of learn these tech companies, they're not required to stay in business. So a hardware investment is a big deal. The Owlcam 5 is new, says CJ, and has night vision and more storage. So there's Kilotech in our chat room, and you're seeing this too, Chip. You said you're in the chat room. It says there is a 5G camera called the Core, some Chinese company. Anyway, I got to run, Chip. Chat room will be a good help for you. We're going to do Sam, but we have some other things to talk about, I think.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to talk to you. Have a good one. It's time for Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. His podcast, Wheel Bearings, is a must for anybody who loves automotive technology and cars. And he joins us every week to talk about cars. Hi, Sam.
Hello, Leo.
Good to see you.
I'm really sorry to see you go from the show. I'll miss doing this every Sunday with you.
Well, and I've told people we're going to keep doing a podcast on Sundays called Ask the Tech Guy. It's just one show instead of two, so we won't be able to get every contributor on every week. But I plan to call you anytime there's a question that's in your we may see you every Sunday because a lot of car questions out there. But we'll definitely have you on the new podcasts.
All right, sounds good.
And if people are subscribed to the podcast at techguylabs.com, that just hang in there, because after the holidays, we're going to, of course, take Christmas and New Year's off. But after the holidays, the show will come back and it'll be a podcast. That's all. It just won't be on the radio.
Yeah.
So you're sitting in front of a car that looks like a Waymo.
It is. This is. It was shown in physical form this week. It was originally announced about a year ago. You were talking earlier about Waymo getting a permit for doing driverless rides in San Francisco. And last year, Waymo announced a deal with a Chinese manufacturer called Zeekr. Zeekr is part of the Geely group, and Geely is the Chinese company that owns, among other brands, Volvo, Polestar, Lotus now, as well as a number of other Chinese-only brands. And Zeekr is one of their newest brands focused on EVs only. And they're collaborating with Waymo to do this purpose-built robotaxi vehicle. And we've got a number of companies now that are going down this path of purpose-built robotaxis. Cruise has shown the Origin, which we've talked about previously. Zoox has their own little purpose-built vehicle. And the advantage to these over using a converted vehicle, you can optimize it a lot more. These are obviously designed without human control, so there's no steering wheel and pedals and things like that. And it has power sliding doors, front and rear. Unlike the Cruise Origin and the Zoox robotaxis, which have what we call carriage seating, where everybody's facing the center of the vehicle. In this one, everybody's facing forward. So it's like a little minivan, but much smaller than the Chrysler Pacifica is that Waymo's been using for a number of years, but also a lot roomier than something like the Jaguar I-Pace that they run a lot of in the Bay Area. And so they showed one of these in LA this week as part of the LA Auto Show. And sometime probably in the middle to the later half of 2023, we'll probably start to see these on the roads. They have actually been testing these. And I pulled up a picture here that I wanted to show you. When I was listening to
what do they call this camouflage they put on these cars? It's really weird looking.
Yeah, well, when I was listening to last week's edition of Twit, you guys were talking about like World War I naval ships. They did some of these weird paint schemes on them, black and white paint schemes.
Yeah.
And if you ever look on car websites or car magazines, you will often see spy photos of vehicles out testing that have this kind of wrap. And for those who are just listening on the radio and don't see the video stream, they have this. It's got these swirly patterns, and it's just a vinyl wrap that they put on the prototype vehicle. But what it does, like what they've done with what they did with naval vessels back in the First World War, is it confuses the eye and also confuses cameras. It's much harder for a camera to focus on this, on these patterns. And it also hides, in this case, in the case of this vehicle, it's a pretty, plain vehicle. There's nothing particularly fancy about it. But for a lot of regular production vehicles, it tends to hide a lot of the design details because you see all these random swirly patterns and you get less of an idea of the details of what it looks like.
I guess. I can see what it looks like.
Yeah, well, as I said, with this particular vehicle, but when you look at some other, more conventional vehicles, you're not going to see the details of the surface contouring and things like that, or at least it's more hidden. And it's also a lot harder for a camera to focus on this when you're using the autofocus. So
in World War II, they called this camouflage on these ships dazzle camouflage because it was supposed to dazzle the viewer or confuse the viewer. And, it's an interesting concept. It didn't take over really. So it mustn't have been very effective.
Yeah, no, the reality is if anything, when they use it on vehicles that are out testing. And around here, I see vehicles with this stuff all the time because got a lot of manufacturers around here in Southeast Michigan, a lot of suppliers that are out testing vehicles, and when they're out on the road, they're running around in this stuff, and so I see these things on a regular basis. And what it does more than anything else is it actually calls attention to the vehicles. So it's almost like they're trying to use the Streisand effect in reverse. So
it's like, look at me. I'm driving down the highway. Woo.
Yeah.
I could see how it might work, in World War II when somebody's using binoculars to look at a ship. But, nowadays, all I'd have to do is take my camera and turn the dazzle into something else, in my computer, and I can see all the details. They're still there.
Yeah. So, but at any rate,
and I think you're right. I think it's more like, hey, look, we got something secret and new. Look at us.
Yeah, and it gets them attention. When these cars get photographed when they're out on the road, then they show up on sites like Jalopnik and Autoblog and Motor One.
It works.
And it says, hey, we got something new coming. So everybody gets excited about it.
It's pretty funny.
You were talking about what it's like riding in one of these vehicles, and it's when it's working correctly.
You did it.
Yeah,
you're very brave.
Not really. I know the people that are working on this stuff.
Did you go 65 miles an hour though in it?
No, we didn't go 65 because, where we were operating, in a portion of San Francisco in the city was, obviously the speed limit. I think the maximum speed limit anywhere in that area was probably about 35. And so, it wasn't going 65. The vehicle's capable of doing that, but, because of the area where they've been permitted to operate, they can only go, whatever the speed limit is. The 65 for the Waymo vehicles, because the Waymo vehicles are operating in San Francisco and San Mateo and Mountain View. And one of the things that Waymo and other companies want to do is be able to provide rides to the airport, for example, to SFO. And, that's going to require some driving on the highway. So 65 is the speed limit on the 101 and on the 280, depending where you're coming from. That's the way you're going to go to get to the airport. So it needs to be able to operate at highway speeds along, go along with the flow of traffic.
Somebody in our chat room asked a very funny question. I think they were being comedic, but it's actually who takes the driver's test for these? How do they?
This is one of the big questions that remains unanswered. Is we don't have regulations for this right now. So, and this is something I've been advocating for and been writing about for a number of years. Is that we need to have some sort of regulations, that is effectively the equivalent of a driver's test for an automated vehicle. In China, they do have some standards. Before a company can get a permit to even test on public roads, they have to demonstrate certain capabilities on a closed track. We don't have that here. Here, basically, you file the paperwork with the DMV or the CPUC or whatever state you're operating in, and pay your fees, and then they eventually give you a permit, which is what the California Public Utilities Commission. We're going to have to
work on this, and we're going to really have to figure this out before there are some horrific wrecks. Mr. Sam Abuelsamid, Principal Researcher at Guidehouse Insights. Always a pleasure. Thank you. More calls coming on the Tech Guy right after this. Somebody's asking, will chat still be around after Leo leaves the show? Yes, the chat is actually more about...
And that runs 24 hours a day, doesn't it?
That ain't going nowhere. I think the word retire was probably the wrong word, but I didn't want to say I quit. Yeah. But basically, I just I get Saturdays back. That's a benefit. I'm still going to do 6 shows a week, which is more than any radio host normally would do. Many, many more hours on the air than most full-time radio hosts. I thought I don't need to work. This will be the first time in my life, by the way, that I haven't had a job.
So you don't have a full-time job?
That I haven't worked for somebody, right?
Yeah.
The first time, no W-2. It took me 19 years to trust that Twit was going to be able to support me before I quit my day job. That's all I'm doing.
And so now you're doing it just as the advertising market is collapsing.
Well, just between,
but at least you have Lisa.
Thank
she
God.
She can keep the lights on.
Just between us, the real problem with the radio show was that that it was going negative. They were so unable to sell ads on it that I was getting a stipend, and then I would get my statement and say minus $25,000, minus $25,000, and it was like, I don't know if I'm liable for this. I hope I'm not. But I can't, I'm not doing this for nothing, and I'm definitely not doing it if I owe you money. So that was really the precipitating thing. And yeah, I mean, I love doing what I do, and we'll keep doing it. I just don't have to do it for a company anymore. I've got my own affairs, my own business. And of course, we're not going to kill the chat. In fact, we're just adding things. We've got Mastodon, we've got forums, we've got the Discord, and we've got the chat. There's plenty of ways, and those will all survive. The only thing of the radio show is I won't be on the radio, but I wonder how many people listen to that anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your numbers look like for the podcast.
I don't either.
Version.
I never got numbers. For the podcast,
the stream.
I know. Yeah, no, for the podcast, my guess is the radio show, they never told me, but I'm going to guess, I'm going to be conservative. I think at one point somebody said 1 million people a weekend. Let's say it's half that, 500,000 a weekend. The podcasts were 50 to 60,000 an episode, per show. So it was about 1/10 as big. But those are the people who I want to talk to more than the radio listeners who are very casual and mostly older and have much more kind of generic printer problems.
Yeah, you're probably going to get more interesting questions.
I'm going to get much more interesting
on the
questions.
podcast.
Exactly. And we're working on the technology, but we're going to be able to do video calls and stuff. And so it's just going to be fun. And it's Mike and me. Mike and I love doing this together. And people like you. It'll be really more of a group. I wish we could name it Ask the Tech Guys, but maybe over time, because it's really going to be about all of us helping people in the same way. Which I think is really a better forum. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I hope to be able to continue participating in that. So.
Of course you will, and of course you'll be on Twit and stuff too. You're a regular. Would you like to stick around for the top of the hour?
Certainly.
Wise guy, eh? And you're on the Mastodon too. I see you're on the Mastodon.
I'm on the Mastodon. And,
what do you think?
I like it. I'm growing the number of people I'm following, and people that are following me, and getting a richer feed in there now with more stuff. And I like it a lot.
Yeah, for a long time, like the last 3 years, it was a ghost town. But we did it. It was fun. I liked it. But now it's much more like, it's pretty much what Twitter was. It's a fast-paced, interesting conversation with a big variety of people. Minus the hate and outrage. All right, we'll talk at the top.
All right.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. If you want to talk high tech, I'm here for you, baby. Mike on the line from Culver City, California. Hi, Mike.
Hi there. I have followed you for a long time. Really appreciate you. And your latest advice to go to Mastodon, I've done it. I get there. I'd go to set up my account. In fact, I'm looking at my profile that I've set up for your Twit zone.
Yeah.
And it says verification, and it gives me this big long thing to copy and put in my website. Now, I am a writer, not a HTML programmer, so
you don't need to be an HTML programmer. Do you have your own website?
Google Blogger.
Okay.
I'm use like a monkey.
You can use Twitter to. So the difference on Mastodon, which is a very much more kind of people's network, which I think now that Elon is destroying Twitter is probably a valued thing. The difference about Mastodon is that it's there's no central authority, so there's nobody to verify you. But in a way, this is better because you verify yourself by linking back to things that you do that people would say, oh yeah, well, I read his stuff. I know that's Mike. So you could do that with Twitter. You could do that with a blog. And it's not it sounds complicated. It's not as complicated as it sounds because anything that you could put a link to, this, I know that the way they've done this is confusing, but this big piece of text is really just a link in HTML to your Mastodon page. And the only thing that you do different than just pure link is this two little words, REL equals me. And this is a signal to the world that this is my site. This is me. And so you're taking I know if you don't know HTML, it looks all like gobbledygook. But what you're doing is you're taking the link that you put on Blogger to other things. Like do you already put links in Blogger to your Twitter account and other places?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And when I put this, I did the copy from my definition,
your profile. Yeah.
It's really nice because they give you the whole string to
right. You just paste it in.
Put in there.
Yeah.
Well, when I put it in there, my website doesn't leave when you click on it. Like I have here's my Twitter account, here's my Facebook account, all that stuff, and you see the words, and in the back of it, I did that on one of Google Blogger's widgets, and in the back side of it, of course, is all the HTML stuff, which I copy like a monkey. So I put the word Mastodon in English to see for my viewers.
Yeah. And
you click on that. If I have that whole rel tag in there, it goes completely, the one that was given to me by Mastodon, it goes to a dead page and says, can't find this page no matter what within my blog.
Okay. So here's probably what's happening. And this is, in order to make Blogger or WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or any of these sites easier to use, the page editor you use to set up your page, does a lot of translation. What you want to find is a way to paste it in without it doing any translation to it. You want to say, and I'm sure in the editor or somewhere there'll be a button that says, I'm I'm pasting in HTML now. I'm not pasting in text. So you want it to paste in raw HTML. HTML is the hypertext markup language, the language of the web. And in order to make this easy, Blogger, everybody does this. They assume you're just typing English. and it's going to make a link based on it. What you want to do is paste in untranslated. Don't translate this for me, HTML. So I haven't used Blogger in a while. I can't remember, but there is going to be a way to do that. It's the same thing on Twitter. When you set up a Twitter account, you can put links to stuff in, and you can paste in HTML, and then it will Twitter. What happens is your Mastodon account will go look at your Twitter, see that rel equals me tag, and make it green. It'll say, yeah, he's verified. And all it's saying is, I control this. I control it enough to put in rel equals me. And by demonstrating my control of my Twitter account, my Blogger, it could be anything that you can paste a link into in pure HTML, that's the key, can be used to verify you. And somebody who's then looking at you on Mastodon, which we should explain is this kind of open source Twitter replacement. A lot of people, 7 million people now have joined it, leaving Twitter. I would say probably half of that leaving Twitter to join it. And so it's fun. And we have our own Mastodon. That's the other thing is anybody can set up a Mastodon server, and they all federate. They all can communicate with one another. So you can be on any server and follow me, and I can follow you on whatever server you're on, Mike, as long as I know what server you're on and what your handle is. So if you're at Mike at twit.social, I can follow you. And then anything you post, I will see, no matter where I am in the they call it the Fediverse, the federated universe. So the key is to figure out on your Blogger how you paste it. I know it confuses people. I prefer this system because I'm not dependent on Twitter to authenticate me. You know, so many people complain. My wife could never get a blue check on Twitter. Twitter, you know, you provide all the documentation and they still ignored her. I have a blue check, but Elon's going to take that away from me in the next couple of months because I'm not paying $8 a month for it. So the blue check in a centralized system, whoever runs the system determines what the blue check means, and I think that's dopey. On Mastodon, it's up to you, and then your reader can go to your profile and say, well, I see it's a green link. That means that he controls that site. Then they still have to go to that site and make sure that that's the person who says they are. So if you're a famous celebrity, if you're George Takei of Star Trek, you have to, somewhere that you control, that only George Takei would be. It's like knowing a secret that only George Takei would know. Knowing a secret only Mike would know. And I'm going to say, well, I'm going to ask you, Mike, what's the name of your second oldest child? And if you know that, I know it's you. That's all this is. I understand it's really complicated. It's kind of silly, but I prefer it because you're in charge of your own verification. And I don't think that way anybody who wants to verify themselves can. So the trick is on your Blogger, look for a way to paste in pure HTML in the editor, not let them translate it. And you'll know because it'll show up as just the word Mastodon. You can change that, by the way. You can make it be whatever the text is in between that left angle bracket and that right angle bracket. That's the text that's going to show up. You could say Mike's Mastodon page. You could say Mike's social network, whatever you want to say in there. The key is that HTML first part, which is an A equals, or A href, rel.me, and then the link. Right, those things in the angle brackets. I know it's kind of complicated. The problem is people like me who've been doing this since I was like a kid know it intimately, and we forget that normal people go, what is this gobbledygook?
Well, let me tell you, you and Jeff and Ant and Stacy at the This Week in Google show. Yeah. I'd like to tell everybody, if you have not found that show, it is a free-for-all. Really, really, it's super smart people. I tell my wife, it's like The View. It's The View for geeks. Were techie and really cared.
You just gave me the tagline. That's beautiful. That's exactly what it is, Mike. Bless you for saying that. And for people who are sad that I'm leaving the radio show, that's one of 6 shows I do every week. There's plenty of Leo, believe me. You're never going to get sick of it. And you can go to techguylabs.com and you'll see everything is there. Thank you for the very kind words.
I subscribe to most of them, and they're available on all your podcasting.
Yeah, so they're free.
It's wonderful. But you guys made me less fearful about trying to get into Mastodon, and now that I'm there, I got to tell you, it's so clean. It feels clean. There's something.
It does, doesn't it?
Clean about it.
There's none of this stuff that was in the background noise of Twitter that made you feel a little, I don't know, creepy, uncomfortable. And by the way, it's gotten more so. It's gotten much more so in the last couple of days because most of the quality people have gone elsewhere, and the people who are left, you want to take a shower. Mike, I just have one question. Am I Whoopi Goldberg or Barbara Walters in this metaphor?
That's a question.
Mike, thank you. Leo Laporte.
You get really rowdy.
I'm the rowdy guy, the tech guy. More calls after this. No, that's you. I never thought of that. That's exactly what it is.
My wife what it was. She heard all these people yelling and talking over each other, and I said, "It's okay. These guys are all cool.
We all love each other, just like Whoopi and Well, that's a good way to put it. It's the view for geeks.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, have a great day, and I'll see you on This Week in Google. And you know what? If you have any problems getting the Realme working, I will, when I go home, I'll look at Blogger. Lisa has a Blogger site. I'll look at Blogger and I'll see if I can figure out what's going on. I think there's going to be a way to put just the plain HTML in. I bet you could figure it out before the show's over. But if not, ask me on Mastodon and I'll tell you.
Okay. Well,
all right.
I'm on. I just joined your twit.social.
Okay.
So
what's your handle on there?
Michael_Greer at twit.social.
Okay.
But Mike G.
Mike G. I'll look for Mike G.
Yep.
Leave me, if you don't figure it out before the radio show's over, you leave me a question there. You're not alone. Everybody wants to know this. It's complicated. It shouldn't be.
Yeah. Okay.
Drove Jeff crazy, as you remember.
I do. Maybe kind of brave enough to go there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Good.
Figured if you could handle it, All right.
Hey, have a great day, and we'll see you on the Mastodon.
Absolutely.
On the extinct elephant mammal site, along with Sam. All yours for 8 minutes, Sam, if you want it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of us on twit.social.
I don't,
Mastodon.
And I kind of not trying to promote it on the radio because at some point we're going to get swamped. And I want it to only be people who listen to like anybody who's listening now should join. And just make sure you say the secret word. Say, I listen to Twit, or I love Sam Abuelsamid or something when you apply.
Or just go to, was it joinmastodon.org, I think.
But there are other ones you can join, exactly.
Pick any server, there's thousands of servers out there.
Yes, exactly.
So, there's lots of them available.
I work really hard. I spend many hours a day looking at our Mastodon to keep it clean and
it's
family
great.
friendly, and it really does make a difference. It's quite a pleasure.
Yeah,
and we have some nice people on there. Ant's on there. You're on there. Denise Howell, Micah now is in there. So all yours.
All right. So let's see. Who was it? Somebody here. Tycon ATL was asking in the chat. He says he's looking at a used 2022 Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo wagon, which is excellent choice. What can I do to ensure a non-certified used Porsche is a good deal and not a lemon? So what he's referring to, or what they, since I don't know, Tycon ATL might be a woman, and non-certified used vehicles. So one of the phenomenon that we've had over the last 10, 15 years is what we call certified pre-owned vehicles, which is where automakers, when they get vehicles either as trade-ins or coming back off lease, they put them through a certified pre-owned program or CPO program, where they go through and they essentially it's refurbishing it, going through, inspecting everything, cleaning it up, replacing anything that needs to be replacing. So it's basically almost like a new car. And then they sell these through their dealers, as used vehicles, which is what they are. And typically, when you go to a dealer and you buy a CPO used car, you pay a little bit higher price for it because usually it almost always comes with a warranty of some kind, and it's been gone over by the manufacturer. They have special facilities where they do this stuff. What Taycan ATL is asking here is about buying a non-CPO Porsche Taycan, and the Taycan is Porsche's first electric vehicle. The Cross Turismo version is a wagon version of the Taycan. The original Taycan was a sedan, and then the wagon. I personally, that's my favorite one, is the Cross Turismo, or actually the new Sport Turismo that's coming out. And how do you ensure that it's both a good deal and that it's not a lemon? And what I would say, and this is generally a good practice, whether you're buying a used Porsche or a used Hyundai, is if you're buying it, from a private party, not buying it from a dealer with a warranty, is to take it to a service facility that you like and you trust, a place where preferably where you've done some business before and that they're going to do good work. And most of them, they will do an inspection. A pre-purchase inspection. It might cost you $100, $150, $200, and they will go through and check everything out, take a look at things that, might be problematic, and, take it somewhere to a trusted mechanic, have them go over it, and spend some time, and especially something like the Taycan, you're probably talking, even for a used Taycan, you're probably talking $100,000 and up. For that car. So it's worth spending a few $100 to make sure that you're not going to get burned on that. And even if you're, like I say, buying a used Hyundai or a used Ford or a Honda, from a private party, unless you're getting a very good deal on it, or unless you know what you're doing when you're inspecting a vehicle, it's a good idea to, spend a couple $100, especially if you're spending, $15,000 or $20,000 on a used car, to have it inspected properly before you buy it, and then you can have a little more confidence in that. So that's what I would suggest. Taycan ATL. Sticking with EVs, with the EV topic for a moment. This morning we recorded the next version, next episode of Wheel Bearings, and one of the questions I wanted to share with the listeners here that we got from a listener was about long-term EV storage. So this particular person is soon going to be buying a Cadillac Lyriq, and he lives in New Hampshire. Where like many people in northern states, it's a snowbird, and spends the winter months in Florida. And for whatever reason, they've opted not to take the Taycan to Florida with them. The Lyriq to Florida with them. They're going to leave that in New Hampshire. And he was wondering whether it's a good idea to keep it plugged in for 4 months while they're in Florida. And what I would say to that is, no, that's probably not a good idea. You don't want to just plug it in and leave it for weeks or months at a time. Lithium-ion batteries are actually really good if you have them partially charged, usually somewhere between 50 and 75% charge. They will actually last a long time that way. And so what I would suggest is to charge it to probably about 75%. If it's going to be 4 months, and then unplug it. But you don't want to just leave it like that for 4 months, because one of the challenges that, EVs have two batteries in them. They have the high voltage battery, which is what moves the vehicle. And then they also have a 12 volt battery, because they still have a lot of systems that run on low voltage, all the computers and everything in the vehicle. And so the 12 volt battery powers all that stuff. And with modern vehicles that are connected, there's going to be things in that car that wake up on a regular basis and go out and reach out to the cloud, to download OTA updates or whatever it might be. So what I would suggest is you charge the high voltage battery to about 75%, and then disconnect the negative terminal of your 12 volt battery. so that it doesn't drain. Get a battery tender, which is just a little trickle charger. Hook that up to the 12-volt battery. And then by disconnecting the negative terminal of the battery, none of the computers or anything else in the car is going to wake up. So it's not going to drain your high voltage battery. So it'll be in good shape when you come back from Florida. And then just when you get back, reconnect the negative terminal and you're good to go.
And there's your, people are asking, what's this Mastodon handle? You have two. Do you mostly use this one, or do you use the other one more?
Yeah, that's the only one I'm using right now. I'm also setting up one for wheel bearings as well.
Oh, good.
To move wheel bearings.
Oh, good. You're going to have a wheel bearings Mastodon? Awesome.
Yeah, we have a wheel bearings on Twitter, and we'll move that over to Mastodon as well.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, maybe a little bit more difficult, but you can use Skype or something like that to call in. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, and this website, by the way, will continue after the end of the year, techguylabs.com. So keep that in your bookmarks, techguylabs.com. That's where you'll find the show notes for every episode. This is episode 1946. Show notes include links that to things I've talked about. The transcript of the show will get up there after a couple of days. It takes a while for the computer to make that. We have a human look at it. That's what takes it a while. The computer's pretty quick. We also have a audio and video from the show, techguylabs.com. No charge. It's no sign up or anything. It's wide open. Dana's on the line from Topeka Canyon, California. Hello, Dana.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great. Gonna miss you, but I'll find you somewhere else, as we've all.
I'll be on the internet. You know, that thing called the internet.
The World Wide Web.
The World Wide Web. Yeah, techguylabs.com will continue to work, and that will have a link to the podcast, which will be
I enjoyed
similar.
Steve Martin being the announcer of that information.
If you didn't hear yesterday's show, Steve very kindly came on, and because I didn't want to say it, he said it for me, that December 18th will be the last tech guy. It's kind of fun. I met Steve on Twitter because of this show. He listened to the show, I guess, in Los Angeles, and DM'd me. This was some years ago. I'd say about 15 years ago on Twitter, sent me a message saying, hey, you know, you don't have to respond to this, but I'm a fan. Says Steve Martin. So of course I responded. What are you crazy? And we've had kind of a good long distance friendship ever since. He's a great guy.
Good for you. Yeah.
I really appreciate him being willing to do that yesterday. It was very nice of him.
Yeah, that was great. I was fortunate to hear it.
Good. I'm glad you heard it. What can I do for you?
Well, I have been using Apple for a long, long time, and I currently have an iMac 27-inch 2017, and that may be my issue in itself, but with a Fusion drive. And it just seems to start exceedingly slowly. Once it's up and running, it seems to function. And I'm wondering, but I sometimes have to restart it twice to get things to open.
That's weird. So when you first started and it doesn't work, what happened? How far do you get?
Well, it'll take, several minutes to actually display all the icons on the desktop.
Yeah, your hard drive is failing. So what happens, and this happens on all computers, not just Macs, but spinning drives especially prone to this. After a while, you build up areas of the drive that are hard to read. Not unreadable. That's important. If it were unreadable, the system would just stop booting. It'd say, well, I can't start up. I'm missing something I need. But what it is they're hard to read, so the system spends time reading it. Now, maybe it only spends an extra second on each sector, but if you have 1,000 sectors, Now you can get to minutes. So that's just a sign. It happens on all computers that when it really slows down like that, it usually is a sign that the hard drive is failing. Hard to replace on an iMac. Unless you really are handy and have a giant suction cup, I kid you not, I don't really recommend it.
Well, then that, I guess, brings to the next question. Do you believe, I like the all-in-one format of an iMac over a separate computer and a monitor. Do you believe they're going to come back with a 27-inch iMac?
Yeah, I think they have to. I was very disappointed they did not do that this year. I was, you know, and it must be supply chain issues. I don't really know what's going on. They did a 24-inch iMac, which is kind of like an iPad on a stand with a keyboard and mouse. It's not my favorite form factor. It's pretty, but it's not for pros. They really need to do a higher-end iMac and with a bigger screen, and they certainly have the capability. You know, you never know with Apple. They don't tell me anything. But the rumor mill implied that Apple had a number of M2 updates for its devices, including an iMac Pro, a Mac Mini Pro, and a couple of MacBook Pros. Normally, they would have announced those in October. I guess they'll announce them in the spring. That's the current speculation.
Do you think there's any value, or is it just a waste of effort to completely erase and clean install?
That would probably fix it, actually. Yeah.
Oh.
So, okay. I mean, the thing is, it depends on what's wrong with the drive. If it's just age, it's reinstalling would refresh it. So back up all your data. You should be doing that anyway now because this is a sign. Back up all your data. If, in fact, there are some more serious problems with the drive, then it'll start again. You can bring it into a repair shop and have them replace that drive. In fact, I would replace the Fusion drive with one, which is, by the way, two drives, a spinning drive and a small SSD. This is because when Apple made this computer, solid-state drives were very, very expensive. Now they're not. I would just replace that Fusion drive with one big solid-state drive. It'd be much faster and ultimately more reliable.
Well, maybe that's the step, because the monitor is great and everything works fine.
There's an intermediate step. Scooter X in the chat room reminded me that actually isn't too bad, which is get an external SSD and use a program like Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper and make a clone of your internal drive, a bootable clone. And then from then on, you could press the Option key, boot to that external drive. It will boot to that from now on. It'll act as if that external drive is your internal drive. You'll basically be no longer using the internal drive. I would certainly do that first because that's going to make a good backup of everything inside and see if that's acceptable.
Well, I currently do that with Super Duper to a
perfect. Boot to it.
It didn't occur to me.
Boot to it. Yeah, now put it on that computer. The fastest connection is probably USB 2. So it's not as fast as the internal drive, but it'd be worth a try. If for people with newer Macs that have Thunderbolt ports, often that's almost as fast, if not as fast, as the internal drive.
Okay, I'll try both of those things.
Yeah, I don't know what's the fastest thing coming out of the back of your computer. Do you have Thunderbolt 3?
No,
it's probably USB. Yeah,
I think there's a little image that has like a Thunderbolt.
A Lightning. You probably have Thunderbolt 2. That would be the one to use. So do some investigation on what's the fastest out port and buy a drive that matches that. And that will be bootable. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then give me some time until they come up with a new iMac, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like that form factor. I can't imagine why Apple doesn't do it. If they don't announce it this spring, then you're probably going to do what maybe this is Apple's new plan, which is get a Mac Studio. The naming it's getting complicated. Get a Mac Studio, which is like a fat Mac Mini, or even a Mac Mini, if they put out a new M2 Mac Mini with an external monitor, and just hide the Mini, and then then it's like it. It's not the worst. It's like an all-in-one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, have a great day. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5555. 888-336 toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Website techguylabs.com. More of your calls coming up. Stay right here. Ben is on the line from, appropriately, Louisville, Kentucky. Hello, Ben.
It's been a while, Leo.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm going to miss you.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going to be on your radio station.
I'm just saying, I want to congratulate you on your somewhat moving on.
Yeah, Lisa calls it retiring, my wife. Mostly because I get to have brunch with her on Saturdays.
Oh, I get you. Well, I'm calling today because I have some interesting project to talk with you about.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I have, I'm starting a Linux from scratch install, actually.
Are you nuts? Why?
Well, I decided, I've done Gen 2 a couple of times.
Okay. All right.
Distros, etc. I said, what the heck? I'm going to take up the guns and
good for you.
Build my own distro from absolute zero.
Can I make a recommendation? I mean, look, this is a great project. You'll learn a lot, and you obviously have a lot of experience. Have you looked at Arch and building an Arch Linux distro instead of...
I actually already did that.
You've already done... All right, Ben, you're way ahead. All right. So good. So you're going to start... You're going to put the kernel on there. Are you going to create your own package manager? How are you going to handle that?
Well, I'm taking Pac-Man and putting it in there.
Love Pac-Man. That's the Arch. So this is just to explain what's going on, because this is Black Diamond level. This is no bunny slope.
This is very high up. Yeah, well,
to explain what's going on, he's going to build his own operating system out of components based on the free open source operating system called Linux. Linux, I'm sure you've all heard of Linux. Really, Linux is just a kernel. It's just the smallest piece of the operating system, and everything is put up on top of that. And the Linux...
I actually made my own kernel,
You built your own kernel?
Yes, sir.
You're not going to use... Well, you can't... You're not going to call it Linux, then. It's going to be called Benix.
Well, actually, I made my own Linux kernel version of it.
Perfect. Yeah, so Linux... The nice thing with Linux kernel is modular. So you can kind of put it... It's by itself... You can add the components you want and leave out stuff you're never going to use and make it tune it to be just what you want, which is, that's one of the beauties of open source. If you are at your skill level, Ben, and that's, you're obviously very skilled.
Yes. What I did was I went to a repo on GitHub and I found some pre-made package builds that were Pac-Man related. And
perfect.
I downloaded those, and I've just been combining different pieces. And
how fun! How fun is this? This is in software the equivalent of building your own PC, and it's probably the geekiest thing I can imagine, except for maybe writing your own operating system from scratch.
That I actually did try to do.
That's next.
That ethically bombed on me.
All I can say is I admire your fortitude and your skill, because that's a hard thing to do. Good for you.
And I actually did find a repo out there from the Chaos Project that also is doing a similar thing, where you can actually build your own ISO out of your LFS, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Yes, and I actually, once I get it the way I want it, I plan to respin this LFS into something, actually. And I'm calling my...
So we will be seeing Benix soon. Oh, what are you going to call it?
Xenix.
How do you spell that?
Xenix.
Okay. With a Z or an X?
X.
Xenix?
No, Xinnix.
Xinnix. Because Xenix is already used. That was a long ago Microsoft Unix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Xenix.
Xenix, Xinnx. I will be looking forward to installing Xenix someday on one of my computers. What a great project. Yeah, is it fun?
And, I actually have a project out there already based on Arch called Storm OS.
Oh. So do you have a GitHub page?
I actually have a website for my Storm OS.
Tell us that.
Well, Storm OS started in 2018 with my buddy Matthew Moore from YouTube, and which I do recommend you look him up at some point when you get a chance. So what he and I did was we started a project called Arch by MM, which unfortunately, after we did a huge live stream on YouTube, a 5-hour live stream together, where he was on Windows 7, remoted into one of my laptops, which I no longer have, unfortunately. And he and I sat there with him just customizing XFCE for me, and we put it together, and we finally got it all said and done. And unfortunately, the ISO did not put it to Xorg, and we just for a few days, and then we finally got to using a CLI installer. And
I'm gonna stop you because we got to take a break for Chris Marquardt. But I just want to say, for people who are sad about the end of the radio show, this is the kind of call you're going to hear on the podcast going forward. It's going to be those high-end callers. Rich on Tech's taking over in the new year. I doubt there are going to be a lot of people saying, well, I want to build my own Linux. StormOS is on SourceForge. The video, if you Google StormOS that you were talking about, is on YouTube. I think it looks like a lot of fun. I'll be
StormOS-Linux.com.
StormOS-Linux.com. Hey, Ben, you know what? This is exactly what I love about modern technology, is that you can do this. You mentioned something called GitHub. This is a site, Microsoft now owns it, for open source software where people can download the actual programming code. And if you're somebody like Ben who has some skill, and some experience, you can take that and make it your own. And
actually, I do have my code up there as well.
Nice. I just feel like this is, I understand this is well beyond the reach of most people. The good news is there are people like Ben doing this and then making it available, so you don't have to be a Ben to use the benefit. In fact, your whole idea with StormOS was a beginner-friendly Arch, right?
Yes, it was, my friend. Yes.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I just love screwing around with Linux and making it easy for people to get into, because I got to tell you, the way Windows is going these days is just not.
I agree.
Good.
I think we're actually all learning a lesson that these giant centralized corporate or worse billionaire-owned systems are not friendly to us. They're designed to make money for the owners, and barely, it seems to be these days, barely tolerate the users. They certainly don't act in the interest of users. But the good news is we don't have to take it. Thanks to people like you, Ben, we can stand up and say, no, we're going to do our own thing. Thank you very much. See ya, Elon. Bye-bye. Ben, bless you. It's great to talk to you. Thank you. Have a great day. Chris Marquardt, photo guy, coming up next. I love that. That's what's great about open source. Vive la révolution. Chris Marquardt, how are you today?
I am doing good. How are you?
Do you have an email for me, sir?
Yeah, nothing for you to do. We want to talk about, open source pretty much.
Perfect.
We'll continue our virtual AI-based photography discussion.
Oh, good. I've been playing with Stable Diffusion. It's so much fun.
Have you played with DreamBooth?
No, that's the one for Mac?
No, that's the one where you can train the model on your own.
Yeah. In fact, that's on my to-do list because we want to make our Christmas card with Stable Diffusion.
I'll show you.
Oh, awesome.
On today's segment.
Can't wait. Okay, good. We'll talk in a minute. That's fantastic. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee before it's too late.
Sure.
Don't you take my Kodachrome away. Mr. Chris Marquardt is here. That music always gives me chills because I know we're going to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, photography. Chrissy is my photo sensei at sensei.photo. Teaches us all how to get better photography. And he's here right now. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
How's everything with you?
It's going great. What's up in your world?
It's getting colder. We had snow today, just a little bit though.
Just a little.
I know there's a lot of snow in some parts of the U.S. right now. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, especially if you're in the upper New York State.
Oh yes.
Our Buffalo listeners, you have my deepest. I guess they're used to it. I don't know what I should say. My deepest congratulations. Well done.
Oh, happens quickly. So I don't really want to talk about photography in the traditional way today. I want to talk about a different kind of.
Let me set this up with what we want to do here, and you can help me do it, okay?
Sure.
So we decide every year we do something different with our Christmas cards for the company. And this year I thought, well, all the rage now is this AI-generated art. I want to do a Christmas card that's us, but that the AI painted. The problem is when I first tried it is it doesn't know what we look like. It's great with celebrities because it has lots of celebrity faces, but it doesn't have ours. Can you help me, Chris?
Well, you remember when I made this Dali picture of you of the Cubist painting kind of thing.
Didn't look like me.
Well, it was a bit of a likeness, but there's a process now that is actually available to everyone. That's called DreamBooth, which lets you train the AI, the one that pretty much is behind Stable Diffusion, which is open source and accessible to people as well, and lets you train a model on a bunch of pictures of yourself. So you can throw in 5, 10, 20, 30 pictures of yourself, selfies or portraits that someone took. They have to be all different lighting, different settings, not all straight on, some from the side and so on. But go through your folder in your smartphone that has your pictures in it, and then that'll usually work out quite well. And then you upload them to a service, and it'll cost you a few bucks. Here's one service. It's called, let me put this on the screen, Astria.ai. They will charge you for a training run. They will charge you $10. And then you get to make, I don't know, a few hundred pictures of yourself. There's another one that's a bit harder to use because you have to prepare the pictures in a special way. That's called AI Painter. But again, it does the same job. It's just a bit more techie.
It's so cool. Look at this picture. This guy. Now, how many pictures of yourself do you have to upload? What do you need to do?
Let me show you.
Yeah.
I uploaded 30 pictures, and here and then you give it a prompt. As in this one, it's a concept art, digital art, manga drawing of.
This looks just like you, actually. Not all of them.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't that well. But if you keep going,
now it is you.
Then if you have to try, and then at one point you end up making pictures of yourself.
Okay, I want to do
this. These are like psychedelic pictures of myself.
So awesome.
This one is me as Marty McFly. So clothes are right and stuff.
Let me explain for people who are listening and aren't seeing these pictures, and we'll put links on the show notes to the pictures. It started off, it sort of looked like you had your beard, but after you trained the AI by giving it pictures of yourself, now it's perfect, and you can put yourself in anything.
You can put yourself in any setting, in any light situation. Some of them are a bit weird looking. I mean, here, that's me as a scary clown. And that is me. If you look here, I'll switch back and forth. This is me.
It's Chris.
This is the scary clown. That's me.
So it really is a good likeness. I mean, anybody who saw this and knew you would say, Chris, you're scary. It's Chris Marquardt.
Or who made that picture of you? Who took that picture of you?
Yeah, it looks like some great artist drew a cartoon of you.
Yeah. And it can be photos, it can be in any art style. You can add like a prompt as I think I have here. Here is me as an SKS, though the man in Fortright. So
the way these work is you give them these generative art solutions. Which one are you using? Stable Diffusion? Mid-Journey?
Well, what you do is, this is based on Stable Diffusion. What you do is, and these services hide that complexity from you.
So you don't even know.
Pretty much.
But you're giving them a text, what they call a text prompt.
Accessible to you.
You give them a text prompt, which is a description of what you want, and then it draws something. Okay.
Here's what you do. You go to a website called Lexica.art, Lexica.art, which is a collection of hundreds of thousands of pictures and the prompts that made those pictures. So you look for something that looks similar to what you want. Like in this case, I gave it a cyberpunk prompt, and then you get pictures of it, and you open those pictures, and then you can copy the prompt for that created that picture or that style of picture. So you copy the prompt. I'm doing this right now, and then you drop it.
So then you don't even have to know enough to
service.
write the prompt. You just copy somebody else's prompt and apply it to your picture.
So here's what you do when you train one of these models. It generates a token for you, which means a little term that allows it to recognize you. In my case, that is called SKS man. That's something unique that doesn't match with anyone. That's not Brad Pitt or anyone. And then you click generate image, and that'll take, I don't know, a couple of minutes. Might be done before we are done, and then you end up with stuff like this, Men in Black posters, cool. And whatever you want to do.
Now this is all done without installing software on your computer. It's all done at the Astria website. Astria
AI is a service, again, that costs you about $10. AI Painter without an E, AIpainter.com costs you, I think that starts at $2. There are ways to do it for free, but you have to be very techie.
Yeah, I installed, because we want to do our Christmas card, so I installed Stable Diffusion, and it has, on my PC, and it has a system to take an image and create a new image called Image to Image. But because it didn't know our faces, it really ended up very creepy and weird.
Here's the cool thing. Those trained neural networks that you train on these systems, you can download them, put them in your own Stable Diffusion, and then generate as many pictures
That's what I'm going to do.
For free as you like.
So we took, I took a bunch of pictures of our staff. Now, what do you recommend for the base images that you should feed to these things?
You mean the amount?
Yeah, 12 pictures, 30. What, 30? Okay.
20, 30
okay.
max. 20 is fine if they are very different. You just give it a try and see how it turns out.
How many did you do? Because yours worked really well. And did you make faces? Did you turn your head? Do you do different pictures? Or
I just went to my selfies folder on my iPhone and chose the one that I thought was suitable. That's all I did.
You chose one?
No, 30 of them.
30.
And then I uploaded.
So since you already have a bunch of your selfies, you just upload those. You need
go into your selfies folder on your iPhone. You will have plenty of them.
Very interesting. See, I love this idea. Now, for the Christmas card, we have 15 employees. I'd have to get 30 images of each of them and upload it. I wonder, could I do a group? We have a bunch of group pictures. I wonder if I could upload those. No, should be the individuals.
You'll have. In these systems, there are ways, but those are very complex. In this case, I would take those individual pictures, train individual networks, create them, and then use something like Photoshop to put them together. Have someone put them into the same setting.
Send us a link to some of these images of you, because I think when people see these and they compare them to the actual picture of you, they're going to go, "That's like you commissioned Ken Rutkowski to do a portrait of you." I mean, it's really good. We now all can have Rembrandt portraits of ourselves hanging on the wall. Bad news, by the way, for artists, but we'll talk about that another time. Chris Marquardt.
That's a different story.
Sensei.photo, SENSEI.photo. Thank you so much. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Yeah, Ken Rutkowski's not too happy about it.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that that many of the prompts at Lexica.art don't really go for one single artist. They combine
put a bunch of
4, 5, 6 different artists. So you get a combination of different styles. So it's not even down to one specific artist, but I was
thinking though of doing our Christmas card as a Renaissance painting, which would be hysterical.
Let me check. I had Rembrandt here somewhere.
I'm sure I could do that.
Let me find.
I love all of these. The profile pictures are going to be very interesting from now on. So can you use Astria to create a checkpoint file and download it?
Yes, that's exactly what you get. You get the checkpoint. You download the checkpoint right here on the top. There is a.
So that's all I need is a checkpoint.
To download it.
Okay, good.
And then again, it's wild what you can get from here. I mean,
these are great.
Look at these murals. I mean, that is just mind-blowingly good.
And I could download DreamBooth, I presume, and do it locally.
Yeah, it's quite involved.
Is it?
So
Okay.
there is a collab, Google collab book
with
called?
DreamBooth.
Collab
Yeah,
workbook
collab.
thing.
Yeah.
With DreamBooth in it, so you get to get to run it on their systems. You have no issue doing that. They're usually like 512 by 512 pictures, and then for some of those you'll have to crop them up front. For Astria.ai does all of that for you, so you just give it pictures and click go, which makes it
very cool.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Chris. Step on my blue suede shoes. Is that the color? Oh, I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Blue is the assignment. We didn't even mention the photo assignment. I was so entranced by what Chris was talking about. Every month we do a photo assignment with Chris Marquardt. This will be our last one. 4 more weeks to take a picture illustrating the word, the concept, the idea blue, whatever that means to you. Could be a color, could be a mood, could be whatever it means to you. Once you get an image that you like, and by the way, it doesn't have to be with a fancy camera. It could be with your smartphone. In fact, very often it is. But once you get a picture you like, upload it to Flickr, flickr.com, which is a photo sharing site, great photo sharing site. It's free. Tag it. Flickr allows you to tag photos with TG Blue for Tech Guy Blue, TG Blue, and then submit it to the Tech Guy group. We'll still have the Tech Guy group. That's gonna continue. Renee Silverman, our moderator, will accept your photo, put it in the pool, and then in about 3 or 4 weeks, Chris will look at those all and give us his comments. He did send me a picture of himself painted as Rembrandt would paint him. It's kind of uncanny. Did you understand what he was talking about? I probably went pretty fast, but. And maybe if you haven't noticed all of the computer-generated art of late that's been appearing on the internet, you're not even aware of this. But what's happened, it started when OpenAI, which is an AI group funded by Elon Musk and others to do AI research, put out a program they call DALL-E2, DALL-E2, which could, given a text, they call it a prompt, but just a sentence describing a picture, draw the picture. And in the early days, it was exactly like a 4-year-old drawing a picture. It wasn't very good. But this is the way of artificial intelligence. It got better and better. But the big breakthrough was when somebody released a program to the public called Stable Diffusion. DALL-E was limited, invite only. The companies running it really didn't want it to look too human, for instance. So they limited what it could do. No limitations on Stable Diffusion. It was open source. Anybody could download it. I did. Put it on their computer and run it, or their services that do this for you. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion of computer-generated art everywhere. It's all a little odd, right? A little weird. But what happened, because it was put out to the public, is the evolution became exponential because millions of people were trying it. Many, many programmers trying to improve it. Along come new features like this DreamBooth feature. AI, the way AI works is it's trained on many, many, many images. It goes out, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion both go out and scan images on the internet, just as many as they can find, and add them to the artificial learning database. That's how ML, machine learning, works. You take a lot of data sets, and then you can kind of project what the next point in the data set would be, and the next one, and the next one. And so they're trained on these many, many different images. But DreamBooth, which Chris was talking about, lets you to train it on your own images, train it on your own face. So suddenly the artificial intelligence knows what you look like and can generate new images of you based on what it knows from the training data. And it turns out you only need to give it 12 to 30 photos of yourself. Chris just used all the selfies that he had already taken and uploaded 30 of them. And it came back. Now the data includes you that it's trained on. And so you can ask Stable Diffusion or any other AI art generator, now make some paintings of me. And they're uncanny. Now, one thing Chris didn't do, I should mention this, he didn't show any pictures of his hands, Because for reasons I don't fully understand, computer-generated art, they can't do hands. So maybe we need to train it better on hands, I guess. The hands always look a little weird, but if you just take your face, they're pretty good. It does a good job. Anyway, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Blue is the subject. Upload it to Flickr. And Chris has put up a gallery of all his generated art. When you see it compared to his own picture, you'll understand how amazing this is. And he's put it up on his website. We put a link on our show notes at techguylabs.com. It's tfttf.com/generatedchris, all one word. tfttf.com/generatedchris. I know that's a little hard to remember, so we'll put it at techguylabs.com. You can remember that, right? techguylabs.com. Derek, next on the line from Seattle, Washington. Hi, Derek.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I always take a sip of coffee right when somebody asks me how I'm doing. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome.
I started listening to KGO back in the early 90s and throughout Tech TV, and you're leaving the radio, but not the media in general. And this is the first time I've ever called into a radio station, and last time I will. So here we are.
Thank you. You know, I grew up in radio. I started in radio in college. I love the medium. But, fewer and fewer people are listening. And fortunately, by chance, I started doing podcasts in 2004. Turns out there's a lot of podcast listeners. So I'm pretty happy doing podcasts, and I'll keep doing those.
Yes, exactly. I have a question for you. I have a not Mac Mini, I'm just nervous, MacBook Air M1.
Love it.
I'm loving it. It hasn't slowed down at all. It's the best computer I've ever had. But I'm having a hard time picking out a docking station for it because I live in an apartment complex and I have a lot of interference from other frequencies. And so I'm trying to get to a point where I can use gigabit Ethernet and just have some USB ports. I'm only going to have one display. I don't have a dual setup. But
you can't actually, with that MacBook Air, you're really limited to one external display unless you jump through a lot of hoops. So as long as you're happy with that, that's good.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I use. I'm not sure about the interference. That's an issue. I'm not sure how to solve that issue. If it's so bad, like if you live next to a radio antenna, then it would be difficult. But normal interference, household interference, maybe there's a refrigerator on the other wall, of the other apartment or whatever. I think a well-made dock is going to be fine. You really do want a dock with these MacBook Airs. They only have 2 ports.
Right.
And if you want to do anything, you're either going to you're going to live the dongle life, or you're going to get a dock. The one I use and recommend is pricey, but I use a CalDigit Thunderbolt 4 device, but you probably don't need that. I'm thinking you don't need that for your MacBook Air M1. CalDigit makes excellent docks. I use the TS4, but they have all kinds of docks. I would not hesitate recommending their stuff. They're well made. They're metal, which will help with the interference, and they'll give you a variety of choices. You have Thunderbolt. Do you have Thunderbolt 4 on the M1? I think you do.
It's whatever came.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I think that's the fastest port. And so if you wanted the maximum performance, you'd want the fastest port. So that's a good one. Anker makes one that looks exactly the same. They might be the same.
Okay.
The Anker docking station, that's a little bit less expensive. And there's a third brand I like a lot called Pluggable. So those are the 3 brands I'd look at. CalDigit, high priced, but probably the best quality. Pluggable, much less expensive, very good. Anker, because it looks to me like they're doing the CalDigit without the CalDigit name. So that I haven't tried it, but that might be a good one. It looks like it might not be a full metal case. These are all hundreds of dollars, though, I should warn you. And that's what the problem is. Thunderbolt is expensive. You have to license it. So,
I like the Windows shop, so I don't mind some links later on.
Yeah. So those are the 3. All 3 are on Amazon. They also have their own website. Any of those would be, I think, a must-have. That's why I got it. A must-have for the MacBook Airs, because they just have so few ports. And these will give you every port you could ever imagine. Leo Laporte, speaking of ports, the tech guy. More calls right after this. I'm so glad you called. I know it's a little scary the first time.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. I remember I specifically got digital cable in Humboldt County to get the screensavers. And it's been a journey, and my grandmother actually recommended you back when I was taking apart her iMac G3 to put RAM in it. I was like, what do you mean, this tech guy on the radio? Like, what do you mean? And so
cute.
Well,
that's what I'm going to miss, is that we get the grandmas, obviously, because it's older people who still listen to the radio, and they need me more than you do, frankly. Yes. But Rich is going to do a great job with them. He's really got a very gentle and smart way of doing this. So I feel like I'm leaving it in good hands. And now I get to talk to the geeks, which I kind of prefer anyway.
Well, I'm excited. When Kim asked me what the question was, I just kind of had to pull something out of my.
Oh, you just wanted to say hi.
I just wanted to say hi. I'm actually set up a Mastodon server now, and I'm actually.
Oh, good.
I'm calling you from my VoIP server that I have in my apartment.
Oh, you're pretty tech. You know what you're doing, Derek. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say hi.
It was just an excuse. I don't mind that. I would say at least half of the callers don't really have a question.
Yes.
you start to recognize those calls.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a good opportunity for us to disseminate this information anyway. Everybody who's, very few people ever call. You never called in your whole life. Most people don't, but the information is useful to them. So
exactly. It's been fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, Derek, I really appreciate it. We might be we might be neighbors at some point. I think if we retire, Lisa and I have been looking at Seattle. I love the area. So
yes, it's very beautiful. It's.
Do you live in town or?
I live about 15 minutes north of downtown.
Nice.
So just do your research. Yep.
We're saving. Well, we won't move until we do Airbnbs. For a few years to really get to know it. Right now, if I could afford it, I would live in Mercer Island. I think just because of the trains and stuff.
Or we'll go over the Bainbridge where I can't remember her name.
That's where Stacy lives. Yeah, and I have family. I have family up in Whidbey Island, way up north in the San Juans. I love the area. It's beautiful. I'm not sure I want to be on an island in case I have a heart attack.
Exactly. No, that's what paranoids me. Is I would never move to Hawaii for the same reason. I just nope.
I was getting island fever because we were thinking Hawaii because of the climate, but then I thought I don't want to be in 3,000 miles in the middle of the ocean.
No, thank you.
Yep. That's why Seattle's great, because Seattle has great medical. Great medical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to be on an island. I don't want to have to be medevaced. Stacy and her husband pay for medevac insurance.
Oh, wow.
For that reason. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the ferries don't work. So
I mean, Bainbridge has a road, but it's the wrong way. You have to drive all the way around. Yeah. Hey, a pleasure to meet you, Derek. I will. You know what?
Thank you so much.
You don't have to call the radio show, but I hope you'll call in on the new podcast.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one. Bye. The Tech Guy Show has a great sponsor this week. Let me tell you about Collide. This Collide is a great sponsor for us because I really love the vision behind it. Collide is endpoint security, so we know we need that, right? Especially, if you nowadays with remote work, hybrid work, people using their phones, their laptops, they're all around. You need endpoint security. But this is endpoint security with a difference. It uses the most powerful, untapped resource in IT. Now, hold on, IT pros. You're not going to like this. End users. A lot of IT professionals see end users as the enemy, right? They're the ones who are letting bad guys in your network and stuff. But give me listen for a sec. No, I understand that when you're trying to achieve security goals, whether it's for a third-party audit, your own compliance standards, just, because you want to lock things down, the conventional wisdom is to treat every device like Fort Knox, right? There are people who put crazy glue in the USB ports. And believe me, I know why you do that. I understand it completely. The problem is old school device management tools like MDMs ultimately bug users. And if users are not on your side, you're going to have a hard time. You put those agents on your employees' devices, they slow performance. Privacy, forget about it, and users know this. I got no privacy on this device now. It turns IT admins, you, and end users into opponents, and that's not good. Because then what happens? Well, the users turn to shadow IT just to do their jobs. They start using their own laptops or their own phones, and now you've got a real problem because those aren't locked down at all. There's a better way. Collide, Kolide. Instead of forcing changes on users that they don't want, Collide works with your users. It sends them security recommendations via Slack. It explains what's going on, why it's a problem, and it enlists the users into helping. So instead of becoming enemies, they're allies now. Collide will automatically notify you and your team when devices are insecure, then talk to the employees, give them step-by-step instructions on how to solve the problem. Something like, and you go to the Collide website, kolide.com/twit, and look at some of the examples. But, I think one of the examples they give, the users got their SSH public key in plain text in their download folder. Now, you and I know why that's problematic, but a user probably doesn't even know it's there. So instead of you going in and changing things or whatever, Collide sends them a DM. It's a private message in Slack saying, hey, I noticed this. Let me explain why this is a problem and how you can fix it. And it has them fix it. Now they're on your team. Employees want to be secure. Reaching out by a friendly Slack DM, educating about company policies, lets you build a culture in which everyone contributes to security because they understand it, how and why to do it. For IT admins, you're going to love the Collide dashboard. One dashboard lets you monitor the security of your entire fleet. Mac, Windows, Linux, doesn't matter. It's completely cross-platform. You'll see at a glance things like, which employees have their disks encrypted, OS up to date, who's using a password manager and who's not. Makes it easy to prove compliance. This is great to your customers, to your auditors, and your leadership. Very simple reports. So that's Collide, user-centered, cross-platform endpoint security for teams that slack. You can meet your compliance goals by putting users first. You really can. Visit kolide.com/twit to find out how. Follow that link. They'll hook you up with a goodie bag, including a great Collide t-shirt. I've got one of them right here. They'll give you stickers, all sorts of stuff. A beer coaster. I have the sticker on my laptop, and they have a couple of t-shirts. This is one of them. This is one I like. Bunch of Pinocchios with long noses, all except for one. And next to that, honest security. It's a great t-shirt. Just for trying Collide, just for activating the free trial. No credit card needed. kolide.com/twit. Thank you, Collide, for supporting the Tech Guy. I thank all of our sponsors who keep us on the air. Thank you. And I thank all of you Club Twit members because you keep us on the air too. I really appreciate that. Actually, I shouldn't say it now because the Club Twit members aren't seeing the ad. This has all been cut out for them. They don't get ads. If you're not a member of Club Twit, can I encourage you to join? twit.tv/clubtwit. It's less than a Twitter blue check. It's $7 a month, and you get so much more. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get shows we don't even put out in public, like Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott, Hands on Mac with Micah Sargent, Untitled Linux Show with Jonathan Bennett, Stacy's Book Club, The Giz Fizz. There's going to be more. The club is so important to us to keep us going because times are tough. I don't know if you've noticed this, but if I look, a few years ahead, I know that it's going to be Club Twit that's going to keep us going. So if you like what we do and you want to support it, $7 a month. You can give more if you want, but $7's all you need. And there's a yearly plan. It'd be a great gift for the geek in your life. And it also is. There's a corporate membership you can give. I feel like more and more nowadays we realize we have to support the things we love. I know, and if you can't, don't worry. We're still going to do all the free stuff we do. The Mastodon, the forums, the shows, those will continue. IRC. But if you can, twit.tv/clubtwit. Thanks so much. Now back to the Tech Guy. Why, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. Now caffeinated, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. This is the tech show. Your questions answered. I can't make your dreams come true, but I can answer your questions. Marcos, Waddell, Arizona. You're next. Hi, Marcos.
Hey, Leo. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, man, fantastic. I started with you when you just took over in KFI. Never called you before. And now I'm here when you're going to retire. But 6 days a week's not really a retirement, is it?
It isn't. It isn't. I love what I do. And Rich DeMuro is going to take over the show starting in the new year. And he's great. And he'll still be on KFI. And if you miss me, there'll be plenty of podcasts you can listen to. So thank you, though. I appreciate it. Yeah, KFI's been great to me. 19 years. That's a long career in any business, but in radio especially. 19 years is a long time.
I wish you the best, man. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to keep up with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I don't know if Kim told you about where I'm calling from.
No, it's a mystery. I don't like to know ahead of time. I like to be surprised.
Okay. Awesome. I'm looking for retirement as well for next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. But I'm retiring my own, because I'm getting, I don't want to wait to retire so I cannot walk anymore. So.
Yeah, my feelings exactly. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And I am a PE teacher, so I don't know if you guys say, what a PE teacher stands for.
I know what a PE, phys ed, we used to call it back east. But
phys ed, exactly.
Yeah, phys ed. And that's great. And that is a hard job, I'm sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
but you're from K. I did high school. I do K to 8, and everybody wants to implement STEM on that, and I tell them,
wait a minute, PE and STEM? How do you do science and math and phys ed?
You have no idea what the education's going with us. Some people think about, but that's besides the point.
Well, I wish you the best in retirement. That's wonderful. What can I do to help?
Okay, I'm going to be moving out of the country.
Okay, where are you going?
I can't tell you because I guess it starts with P and ends with L.
Portugal?
Oh, man.
I'm very good at Wordle, I should warn you. We have other listeners who live in Portugal who love it because it's very affordable.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the EU.
Go ahead.
And you get a Schengen passport and you can travel around. And I think it sounds like a wonderful life.
My wife is Portuguese. I'm Brazilian, and we've been here for 30-something years.
Oh, well, you both speak Portuguese. So, gosh, that's a natural. Yeah.
Español también.
Yeah. Espanol and Portuguese. You're set.
Exactly. And a little broken English. That's why my girl told me.
Your English is not broken. It sounds fine to me.
Dad, you don't have an accent.
Do you wear a whistle when you work? Do you blow the whistle?
Absolutely. What a pleasure to be a PE teacher and have no whistle.
So what can I do to help you in this move?
So I'm very practical. I'm going to go straight to the point. I wrote some stuff in here. I'm going to just tell you what I'm thinking. And I'm going to ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you do?
Okay.
So I have a T-Mobile. I want to keep my phone. I'm worried about security because I have all documents that come to me from mailing and all the stuff I have. I did on my house, of course. I bought a Chromebook just to use out there. I listened to you over TuneIn, but TuneIn, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it's not very good, but it just put ads.
Hey, here's the good news: is the podcasts work everywhere in the world. You can easily listen to any of our shows in Portugal. Just use the podcast. You don't need to use a streaming service. Yeah.
Okay, so I go to the Twit, right?
Twit, and we stream the audio and video at techguylabs.com. Yeah, twit.tv, okay. Yeah.
So if you're in my shoes, you're going to move. You don't want to carry any papers. You want to be very secure.
Here's what I would recommend. You could have a copy of it. You could encrypt it and put it on a thumb drive or whatever, but that's only one copy. And as you know, one copy of anything is not safe.
Mm-hmm.
I would use, and I'll tell you what, I do this. I would use your password manager for this. So password managers, we all know, create and save passwords to log into sites, but they also, all of them have an ability to store documents and notes. They're encrypted, so no one can see them except you. They synchronize to all your devices. So you have it on your phone. If you're crossing through customs and you don't have your passport, you can pull it up. You always have access to them. it's in effect always backed up by their servers. And because it's good encryption, it's absolutely secure and private. So I think that's a good solution. I put my passports, my driver's license, my social security numbers, all that stuff that I would be, tax returns, that I would really be in trouble if I lost them or they were leaked to the public, I keep in my password manager. Now, tax return is probably not a good example. That's a big, but if it's a single page, the password manager can take care of it. If you're going to do tax returns, then maybe encrypt them and put them on OneDrive or Dropbox or iCloud, but encrypt them before you upload them there, and they'll be safe there. But the problem is you put them on any drive and you have one copy, that's risky. So a cloud solution is a good solution for you.
Okay, I put that at cloud and a password manager as well. What about having I just bought a cheap Chromebook, brand new, just to use for my financial out there. Was that a good idea?
Yes, great idea. You'll have internet in Portugal. You probably have better internet for less money in Portugal.
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I will have it.
Yep. And so the Chromebook will work just great. You know, the only drawback to a Chromebook, and actually Google, I think, is fixing this if you have a Google One account, but the only drawback is if you wanted to watch American TV in Portugal, which a lot of expats do, they use VPNs to do that. So they'll VPN, back to Arizona and watch from there. A Chromebook, right now, you can't go out and get something like our sponsor ExpressVPN on a Chromebook, but Google is offering a Google VPN. I'm not sure how it works for going around geographic restrictions, but that's the one thing I'd investigate. You're going to want something that'll let you watch international programming that you can't get in Portugal.
That leads to my second question. Of course, I'm going to buy a small laptop to take with me. So the Chromebook is only for the financial.
Perfect.
What would you suggest?
Oh, yeah, that's a good, secure solution.
Hey, nothing like, I'm a teacher, remember, please.
Think of all the money you're going to save. Actually, I take it back.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I take it back. Our sponsor, ExpressVPN, I didn't even know this has a Chromebook app. So never mind. You're good.
I'm not using this one. So
yeah, but I think that's smart. Keep the Chromebook just for the banking, so that it's absolutely secure.
So what kind of laptop you suggest? Something simple. I'm not very geeky, but I can go.
I wouldn't. I think a Chromebook's great. You might look at an iPad. They have one for $329. A $329 iPad's going to be better than any Windows or Mac. Well, they can't even get a Mac laptop for that price, but any Windows laptop at $300 is not going to be any good. You need to spend at least $500 for a Windows laptop, and I'd say probably more.
Okay.
Macs start at $1,000. I would look at an iPad.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm retiring, but my wife wants to keep teaching online, so she's going to need a laptop.
Good for her. Yeah. Okay. So I like Dell, HP, Lenovo.
Okay.
Yeah. If you say, what are your top three? Those are my top three.
That'll be fantastic. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And one more thing. Of course, every time you log in something, you have a two-factor authentication. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Were they going to have problem receiving that in Portugal?
Nope. Just don't do it on the phone. Do it on an authenticator app on your phone. Don't do it by text message. That's not safe.
How would that work? So I need to download an app?
Yeah. I use Authy, A-U-T-H-Y.
Yeah.
There's Google Authenticator. There's Microsoft Authenticator. Any of those work fine, and they're much more secure than text messaging.
I see.
All right.
What is the YubiKey?
YubiKey, that's now we're getting really fancy. YubiKey doesn't store anything, but it does unlock things. That's a really better way to do 2FA. But you're almost always going to have an authenticator in case you lose your YubiKey. But YubiKey is a great hardware unlock. I keep one on my keychain. I'm holding it up right now like you could see it. Okay. I keep one on my keychain, and I use that for the most secure stuff. I use a YubiKey, like my Twitter account.
Okay.
Right.
So would you suggest that?
Not necessarily, no. I think you're fine. And it's really useful for somebody who might be attacked. And because I am supposedly the tech guy on the radio, I always worry about extra security. You're probably fine with it. Just use Authy. Don't use SMS text messages. Use Authy.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else? Think about it.
Yes, one other thing. Blow your whistle and tell me to drop and give you 20.
Oh, 20 is too little.
Oh, how many should I do?
Oh, depends. How old are you? You gotta tell me.
I'm old man. I'll do radio host push-ups. How about that? Thank you. Thank you, Marcos. Have a great trip.
I appreciate it.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 2-3-8888. Ask Leo, 5758. Give us a ring. More of your calls coming up. 99 100.
Let me blow the whistle. Hold on. Leo, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcos. I think you're going to have a great time. Congratulations.
Yeah, what I'm saying.
Take care. Bye-bye. Artemis. Now, do you lose the chair?
Yeah, I lost the chair.
Damn. But on the other hand, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, man.
I started using a new term. I call myself a bookender now because as I was there for Apollo 4, I was there for Apollo 8, and now I've seen Artemis.
Did you see the launch?
Yeah.
You were there?
I'm not in person. No.
Oh.
No, I mean, I was there as
you were alive on the planet.
You and I are the same age within a couple of months, so I was on the planet watching.
Hey, we're lucky. That's pretty cool.
I had a reporter there, a writer, and I had 2 photographers. All worked great. I had to yank the magazine out of layout to update the cover because I didn't think it was going to go this soon. The only sad thing is, I know, I'm cynic. What can I tell you?
You are. I was the same, though. I thought they're never getting this thing off the launch pad. But I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong.
The photographers put out, their robotic cameras downrange to get the automatic snap stuff. For some reason, they all missed the rocket actually in the frame and got the pillar of flame shot. So I'll have to get that somewhere else. But hardworking guys. I mean, I can't complain. Yeah. I pay them. I just sent them out there. But, hey, I had a gag worked up. I was going to do a visual gag of big cutout teardrops on both eyes for the announcement yesterday. But my printer wouldn't work. So I thought, instead of that, I can ask about my printer, but I won't.
God, I'll kill you. I still have my T-shirt from you. Your T-shirts.
And then I thought, hey, can I dig out my HP 500C black and white only and put that on my desk or something? But I have no idea.
It was really my plan, and I know this is cruel, but it was really my plan not to say anything till December 18th.
Yeah.
The last segment of the last show, I was just going to say, hey, by the way, it's my last show. Bye. But because the worst thing, and it's already starting to happen, is, people going, oh, yeah, we're going to miss you. What's happening? And I think that's
nice, though.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but
how many
it's nice for
show
me.
Up at your funeral. I'll probably have about 3.
I don't need that kind of affirmation, and I think it makes a pretty bad radio show. So,
really,
yeah.
Can you teach me how not to?
I'm not a fan of long goodbyes.
Yeah,
just want to get out of there. We have let show hosts go on and on for weeks, and it's always been a mistake. I'm just going to say that. All right.
Oh, you about how I'm going to miss you guys? And
Yeah. I will talk to you in 10.
Okay, sir.
Ha! Do you think that she was thinking Ticketmaster when she wrote this song? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. What a mess. But everybody who's ever used Ticketmaster to buy tickets to a concert knows what a horrible system that is. We all hate it. And then after you buy, Taylor Swift tickets, $300. Okay. Oh, by the way, it's going to cost you $50 each service fee. What did you do? It's $50. 8888 ask Leo. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your kids. They'll tell you about the whole Taylor Swift Ticketmaster saga. Vic is on the line from Vista, California. Hi, Vic.
Hi, Leo. Well, we are going to miss you, so accept the adulation, but you're going to have your podcast. And
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, it's just the radio.
And maybe you can fill in from time to time when the host leaves.
If Rich asks me to fill in, I will gladly do that. Absolutely.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And then you could have your brunches the other Saturday.
Yeah. How many brunches does one guy need, really?
Man. You've missed a lot.
19 years of brunches.
It would be nice to hear you from once a month or once every 2 months.
I never even thought of that. That's a good point.
Yeah. Ask him.
I'll make myself available. You bet.
Yeah, okay, you've already covered Twitter, but I agree with you. It's become even more of a cesspool.
It's getting worse and worse. And I'm not talking about President Trump's account coming back. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that it's the people who are staying are people who, even more than usual, love the chaos.
Yeah. And they've lost more of the ad revenue. CBS pulled out, and so he's probably in worse financial position now because all the big advertisers are just pulling away. So,
it really makes you wonder what was the plan.
I don't know.
What was the plan?
Yeah, but anyway, okay, my main comments were on cryptocurrency. I don't think you've covered that. There's a lot of talk now among the politicians and the industry about, quote, regulation. But I think what they're trying to do is get government bailouts. And I would be against any...
Oh, I agree with you.
It's a money pit. And it's...
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they look at what happened in 2008 and all the, financial services companies that were, quote, too big to fail that got government money. And most of that went to the paychecks of the executives.
And what'll happen is these people that they'll say, oh, the government will back us up, so they'll be more inclined to keep money flowing into it and speculating. And then if it does crash, we're supposed to pick up the bill.
Yeah,
but a lot of the politicians have been getting donations from the crypto industry, the private crypto industry, and I think that's part of the motivation.
Yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried, who was, of course, is the poster child now, having gone from being worth $92 billion to zero in about a minute. He was a big donor to the Democratic Party, although I have to say he also donated to Republicans. Anybody in a business like that's going to donate to whoever they think is going to be in power because they want, they want their ear. And unfortunately, that's the political system in this country, is that you buy their ear with money. And I'm sorry to say that because I think that doesn't work very well.
But I think that's the motivation. But let me get just one final point. I think there is a future for blockchain currencies in the government sector. The Federal Reserve at some point may want to supplement or replace cash, paper money, with crypto, but it has to be within the government sphere. These private cryptocurrencies are a playground for bad actors, I think, and I don't think the government should get involved at all. There are criminal possibilities if something goes wrong. There's liability.
I'm 100% behind you. It'd be like bailing out Bernie Madoff.
Exactly.
It would be insane, and I don't think anybody's proposing that. I do think the government would like to, and probably now in hindsight wishes it had, regulate crypto like it regulates all securities.
Right.
Because FTX wouldn't have collapsed if it had been regulated and prevented from investing its users' money, because that's what they did. They had two branches, FTX, which had its own cryptocurrency, and then they had Alameda Research, which was a trader, and it turns out he was taking money, depositors' money, your money and my money, and giving it to Alameda to make speculative trades. When those trades failed, that money disappeared, people wanted their money back, suddenly crash. And
that's where the criminal codes come into place, and if he was doing that,
I agree. I think
go to jail.
I think so, but good securities regulations would have also made it impossible from day one.
Right.
He was lobbying for that, but you're right. He may have had an ulterior motive. The real interesting thing will be: does this, adding to all of the existing crypto crashes, does this turn people against the whole notion of cryptocurrencies? And is that a bad thing? And I agree with you. I think governments there's going to be a digital dollar at some point.
But here's the thing. If there is even a limited regulation, people may feel more safe in putting their money into it, and they shouldn't feel that way.
No, it's still speculative.
So, okay, well, great show. Enjoy your lunches or brunches, whatever. and don't be a stranger. Come back and host the show.
I love that idea. Yeah. You'll be one of those. I'll be like Frank Sinatra retiring. I'll be calling Rich saying, "Hey, Rich, it's Leo. I just want to talk to you about something."
You remember Tom Sawyer? You've read Tom Sawyer.
Absolutely.
Huck and Tom went to their own funeral, and they heard all the people saying how great they were. And
thanks for inviting me to my own funeral. I appreciate it, Vic.
Exactly. No, your own departure. But I mean, you're hearing the love the people have.
Yeah, I know, and I always appreciate that, and I welcome it, and thank you for it. And as Mark Twain said, the rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. Right?
Exactly. Okay. Enjoy
Vic,
your leisure time. Okay, bye.
I'll raise a mimosa to you, Vic.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have an Eggs Benedict in your honor. 8888 Ask Leo. We're going to talk space in just a little bit. Boy, this is exciting. Artemis successfully launched this week in a beautiful night launch. And we are back on our way to the moon. But just what does that mean? Rod Pyle, who is the editor-in-chief of Ad Astra magazine from the National Space Society, author of many space books, hosts of This Week in Space, will join us in just a little bit to talk about the moon. Stay here. Hey, everybody, it's Leo Laporte, the founder and host of many of the Twit podcasts. I don't normally talk to you about advertising, but I want to take a moment to do that right now. Our mission statement at Twit, we're dedicated to building a highly engaged community of tech enthusiasts, that's our audience, and you, I guess, since you're listening, by offering them the knowledge they need to understand and use technology in today's world. To do that, we also create partnerships with trusted brands and make important introductions between them and our audience. It's how we finance our podcasts, but it's also, and our audience tells us this all the time, a part of the service we offer. It's a valued bit of information for our audience members. They want to know about great brands like yours. So can we help you by introducing you to our highly qualified audience? And boy, you get a lot with advertising on the Twit podcasts. Partnering with Twit means you're going to get, if I may say so humbly, the gold standard in podcast advertising. And we throw in a lot of valuable services. You get a full service continuity team supporting everything from copywriting to graphic design. I don't think anybody else does this or does this as well as we do. You get ads that are embedded in our content that are unique every time. I read them, our hosts read them. We always over-deliver on impressions. And frankly, we're here to talk about your product. So we really give our listeners a great introduction to what you offer. We've got onboarding services, ad tech with pod sites, that's free for direct clients. We give you a lot of reporting so you know who saw your advertisement. You'll even know how many responded by going to your website. We'll also give you courtesy commercials that you can share across social media and landing pages. We think these are really valuable. People like me and our other hosts talking about your product sincerely and informationally. Those are incredibly valuable. You also get other free goodies, mentions in our weekly newsletter that's sent out to thousands of fans. We give bonus ads to people who buy a significant amount of advertising. You'll get social media promotion too. But let me tell you, we are looking for an advertising partner that's going to be with us long term. Visit twit.tv/advertise. Check out our partner testimonials. Tim Broom, founder of IT Pro TV. They started IT Pro TV in 2013, immediately started advertising with us, and grew that company to a really amazing success. Hundreds of thousands of ongoing customers. They've been on our network for more than 10 years. And they say, and I'll quote Tim, "We would not be where we are today without the Twit network." That's just one example. Mark McCrary, who's the CEO of Authentic, he was actually one of the first people to buy ads on our network. He's been with us for 16 years. He said, and I'm quoting, "The feedback from many advertisers over those 16 years across a range of product categories is that if ads and podcasts are going to work for a brand, they're going to work on Twitch shows." I'm proud to say that the ads we do over-deliver. They work really well because they're honest. They have integrity. Our audience trusts us, and we say, this is a great product. They believe it. They listen. Our listeners are highly intelligent. They're heavily engaged. They're tech-savvy. They're dedicated to our network. And that's partly because we only work with high-integrity partners that we have thoroughly and personally vetted. I approve every single advertiser on the network. If you're ready to elevate your brand and you've got a great product, I want you to reach out to us. advertise at twit.tv. So I want you to break out of the advertising norm, grow your brand with host-read authentic ads on twit.tv. Visit twit.tv/advertise for more details or email us advertise@twit.tv if you're ready to launch your campaign now. It's our rocket man, Mr. Rod Pyle, joins us every week to talk about space. He should know he's the host, along with Tarek Malik of Space.com, of our This Week in Space podcast. He also is the editor-in-chief of the at Astra magazine at space.nss.org, the author of many fine books about space. You live in space, Rod Pyle.
We all do. We just happen to be standing on a planet that's moving through it. So, yes, as you and I discussed off air, I wasn't, as you know, we've been having this discussion for months, and I thought, Artemis is going to launch in 2023. I'll put the last issue of Ad Astra in 2022 in the layout, and no sooner do I get the first proof than the launch happens. Don't get me wrong, it was spectacular. I stayed home, had a glass of bourbon that waited until the last second until it got off the ground, and I thought, okay, this is great.
So, some Artemis facts.
Transported back to 1968. Yeah.
The most powerful rocket ever used, yes?
By about 1,003 pounds, yeah. Thrust.
So a lot of thrust. Why is it more powerful than the rockets we sent to the moon last time?
Yeah, so the Saturn V was about 7.5 million pounds, and it used less advanced fuels. It used kerosene, liquid oxygen instead of liquid hydrogen in the lower stage. But and Artemis is about, I think, 8.7 million pounds, 8.5 million pounds of thrust. But it can't carry as much mass to lunar orbit. Why might that be, you might ask?
Why?
That doesn't make any
Rod?
sense. It's got this really wimpy upper stage called the interim cryogenic upper stage or something. I'm not getting it right. ICPS, interim cryogenic propulsion stage. And it's got, instead of the, and the whole rocket's very different than the Saturn V. It's got this huge core stage and these enormous solid boosters. Doesn't have the kind of second stage the Saturn did that had the S4B stage. Saturn's upper stage was over 200,000 pounds of thrust. This one's is about 25,000 pounds.
That's
so this
a lot
was
less.
kind of a weird. Yeah, it was kind of we're out of time and money years ago. Let's just do this as an interim, and then we'll build a bigger one for the Block 1B Saturn. Excuse me.
So when we actually go to the moon, will we use a better second stage?
Well, for the first couple of journeys, we're going to use this one.
I mean, we are going to the moon, right? In fact, it arrives at the moon tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow morning at 7:44 Eastern, 4:44 Pacific. So
there's no humans on this. There's just a stuffed Snoopy doll,
which floats free,
which is really cool, by the way.
And
Thank
of course,
you,
we
NASA.
have ALEXA inside there.
Yeah, that's just because
Chatting with the
Amazon gave them a
astronauts.
bunch of money.
Well, yeah, but when you got a $40 billion system you've been working on for between 10 and 20 years, depending on how you parse it, you need every nickel you can get, right?
Yeah, that was prior to Amazon announcing this week that it was going to lay off half of the ALEXA team.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am on a website that's pretty cool. This is the Artemis 1 website from NASA that lets you kind of play with it, right?
Yeah, so you can actually go and interact with it a little bit and choose your view and well, there you go.
We've
reconnect.
We've lost our signal. I hope it's nothing serious. But this is a picture. There behind it is that the sun?
Yep.
And then you can turn it around and you can see
the moon will be around the other way.
It's actually, that looks like the Earth. But I can't tell. And then the moon.
Last time I looked at it, it was facing the other way.
Well, we lost our signal.
If you refresh it, it should come up with the moon.
Okay. And then, whoa.
But you can go look at the trajectory. You can do all kinds of course, people listening to the radio aren't seeing this, but there's this cool website.
Give us the address so they could play with it.
Right.
Like I am.
It's at nasa.gov/specials/track Artemis, all one word.
Wow.
Now, NASA, please, give us a shorter URL so that we can say it on the radio, but that's okay. But it's very worth checking out, and it gives you all the dynamics. Now, you see that weird lunar orbit, right?
Yeah.
So this is called a distant retrograde orbit, And they've been talking up, they being NASA, have been talking up, well, it's stable, it doesn't require as much energy to reach or maintain and all that. But, part of that discussion is they don't have the delta V or the thrust to get to and stay in a low lunar orbit, at least on this flight. Okay. So at any rate, it does this weird kind of, that's what's special about Monday morning. It'll be a pass about 80 miles over the surface, lickety split. And then it goes up into this really high, weird looping orbit that goes as high as 40,000 miles.
Was this the orbit that they use if there were people on board to land on the moon?
No. This is
because you want to be nearby.
Yeah, and don't forget, that orbit is they're going to either link up directly with SpaceX's lunar lander or with the Gateway, depending on when that gets built. But probably for the first flight, just directly dock with the lunar lander and then go down on that modified Starship down to the surface. So there's a lot of dancing left to do.
This is like Apollo 8, right? The preliminary visits to the moon. Apollo 8 was manned.
And actually Artemis 2 is the flyby of the moon with a crew, so that's more like Apollo 8 even.
Okay.
But they're not going into orbit. They're just slinging by it. So it feels kind of like, well, come on, Well,
if you get all the way there.
At least get us up to 1968. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff happening on this.
Well, that's a good question. Why are we doing this? We already did it. Do we need to do it again?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I want to.
Partly that's because we want to go to Mars, and this is...
Yeah, this is the proving ground. So this lets us test out technology. We haven't done this for a really long time. We haven't left Earth orbit with people for a really long time.
Plus, more than that, aren't they thinking to build a base on the moon? So that would be part of a Martian next stage.
So you got this whole evolutionary workup. So you got first these early Artemis flights, then the Lunar Gateway goes in as part of Artemis 4, we think. Probably 2024, 2025. And that's the orbiting lunar space station. And that's in this weird thing called a halo orbit that's going north to south, actually, over the poles. So now you've got access to the South Pole, which is where we want to build this base, because that's where the resources are, and there's other interesting things about it. And as you point out, that also lets you test the technology and evolve systems for going to Mars. Wow. And maybe... if we invest properly and private industry really steps up to the plate, maybe start using resources on the moon to create fuel and even components for the Mars-bound rockets if we do it right. So
that makes sense. Kind of a stepping stone to Mars.
Yeah.
When will we put human feet on the moon?
Well, Leo, that's an interesting question. The date is still 2025. It was 2024. It got slid to 2025.
Seems a little soon to me.
It's a little soft. Yeah,
I'm no rocket scientist, but
you're close.
Plus, the nice thing is
27. I'm saying 2027.
There might even
I'll bet you for your chair
27. You can have my chair. I'd say very uncomfortable. So 2027, and we're thinking a woman maybe and a person of color in addition. Which would be nice, kind of a little diversity on the moon.
Yeah, and women, women on average have less mass than men and the same brain power. Some women I know would say superior, but at least the same brain power.
So we should send women.
So it makes sense, right? Because you get more bang for your buck. Yeah. But of course, we didn't do that in the space.
We didn't think of it that way.
So, by the way, on Monday morning. And I think you and I should do that live at 4:45 in the morning, but I'll bet you don't agree. He spits his coffee. There's going to be views from many of the 24 external cameras they have. So they
put really good cameras on this. That's the biggest change since 1969. We've got great imaging devices up there. Already we've seen a beautiful picture of Earthrise.
Yeah.
First since the 70s. Beautiful.
And when you compare to in Apollo, I think a lot of younger people don't realize the only camera, they had two camera systems. They had the TV camera that they used in the capsule and then on the lunar surface, two different ones. And then all the rest of it was 16 millimeter film that had to be returned and processed. Yeah. Now imagine being the guy at the processing lab. They hand you this reel in a can saying, okay, this just came back from the moon. So don't mess it up.
So when do the images start coming back?
4:40 our time.
What day? I'm not getting up before
Monday morning.
Monday morning. I'll look for
Monday morning.
You enjoy. That's Spaceman Rod Pyle. This Week in Space at twit.tv/twist.
I'm going to call you at 4:44.
Yeah, no. Blow that whistle. I'll do more push-ups.
And by the way, two things. When I said that chair, I meant your Klingon iPad
You don't
chair
want
that
you
have
don't
at
want
the studio.
You don't want this chair.
Not that one. No, the Klingon chair.
That is the worst,
That
most
cool
uncomfortable chair.
That riveted chair you've got.
You don't get that Dr. Evil chair. That's going to the Smithsonian, buddy.
A priceless classic. Yeah, with you in it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when your coach called in, it made me reflect on horrible moments in junior high and high school gym. When we were kids, why was it that every coach you had was a former drill sergeant and acted like it? God. It wasn't just get down and give me 20. It was like getting in your face and screaming, and then they'd hit you in the head with a book or smack their whistle on your inside of your skull.
Did you, or you might have been, you're a little younger than me. You might not have had experienced this. Did you guys play?
No, we were both born in 1956.
Oh, we're the same age?
Yeah.
I thought you were younger. You look so young.
I was born.
Do you dye your hair?
No.
You look so young. Anyway.
Yeah, but look here. Look at the skin around the eye.
No, I don't want to look at that. Thank you, please. Anyway, we used to play dodgeball, and there was always one kid who threw a stinger, right? And it'd always be, for some reason, I'm the last guy on my team. So there's one person across the line, and Dwight, who threw the worst stingers.
You remember his name.
Oh, I hated Dwight.
Oh, my God. Somewhere Dwight is cringing right now.
And you go, yeah.
Now, so if Dwight was young now, he'd be the guy that would freeze the paintballs before putting them in his paintball gun.
Yeah,
so it's like hitting you with a ball bearing, right?
Yeah, he was a sadist.
I don't know about you. I was always the last guy chosen for any team.
Oh, yeah,
with good reason, mind you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it was so embarrassing. And then, trying to play football without understanding how it worked. Ant and I talk about this all the time when we have our Tuesday link-up call before we do the Friday show, because he'll start saying something about football, and look, I know it's a little skinny brown one. That's as far as it goes. When my kid was playing football, I had to get football for dummies to be able to understand.
We call it hand egg. I have football for dummies, actually.
Do you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have that.
I have
when Lisa and I first got together. She's a serious football fan, and I bought a whole bunch of books, including Football for Dummies.
Good husband. Yeah.
I tried to figure out how this works. But when I was a kid, I used to play. I'll find that picture of me in pads. I used to play not in school, but just with my friends. Like when I was 9, we'd play pickup, and I got the Frank Gifford playbook, and there was only 5 of us. You really couldn't run any patterns or anything.
Right.
But I loved it, and that's the thing. It was a great game, but then it got so. Henry played Pop Warner.
Oh,
that whole year I was so. The quarterback in practice got a tib fib and we had a case cast up his hip, and I was just like terrified. He survived it, but we only did 1 year, thank God. We talk about scary drill sergeant coaches. Oh yeah, man! All the kids.
My
would be
son went
thrown
to a
up
pretty
at
serious Catholic school.
Yeah, same thing.
Not Catholic.
They take it seriously.
In our town, they were serious about that.
Oh yeah,
they had
here too.
Helicopter flyovers. And all that kind of stuff. Cardinal
Newman up here, they're the football power.
Yeah.
Well, not now that Ants at Rancho Cotati, they own the world. I think they beat Newman like 47-0.
Is he coaching there?
No, but his son is like the star. He got 7 touchdowns. He got all the touchdowns in the 49-0 victory.
Oh my God!
7.
Fatherly pride.
4.
Could he even fit through the doorway?
4
the next
passing.
Day when he came to work.
3 rushing.
Yeah.
All right, gotta go. See you,
know
Rod.
What that means because you have the book. See ya.
Bye. Yeah, I got the book. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy this week. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director. She's the best in the biz. Thanks to Kim Schaffer. Nobody answers phones like our phone angel, Kim Schaffer. Thanks, of course, most of all, to those of you who listen to the show and call in. Couldn't do it without you. I really appreciate it. And I will be here next week. Don't worry. I'm going to be here next week. We'll do more, talk more tech. It's going to be the week after Thanksgiving, the day after Black Friday. I've been remiss, haven't I? I should have been giving you all these great Black Friday deals and stuff, except these days, Black Friday is all month. continues on and on and on. But you know what? We'll get Rich. You know who's good at this? Rich DeMurrow's great at this. We'll get Rich on. He does it on KTLA in Los Angeles on his TV bits, and we'll get him to give you some holiday gift ideas. How about that? In the next couple of weeks. I think he's traveling for Thanksgiving. We'll try to get him on next week, and then if not, we'll get him on the week after. 8888 Ask Leo. Time for a couple more calls here. Reminder, though, real quick before I go to the calls, the website. It's important to keep track of that, techguylabs.com. Lots of links there, stuff we talked about on the show. We put audio from the show and video up there, a transcript as well. And that's free, easy to access, techguylabs.com. This is episode 1946, and there is at least audio for every one of those 1,946 shows. We didn't start doing audio until, I think, the 2nd century AD. So we have audio for the first few hundred shows and then video after that. Mark's on the line from Los Angeles, our next caller. Hi, Mark. I think you're muted, Mark. Unmute. I hear that. You hear that hum?
How about now?
How about now? Yeah, baby.
Okay. I'm calling because I need to get a new laptop.
Okay.
And I would like to get a laptop that I can edit some 4K video.
Oh, 4K is the hard part. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know what kind of specs I should be looking at.
Yeah.
And
if I could, I would recommend, strongly recommend a Macintosh for this. But are you comfortable with Mac?
I am, but I just hate to pay extra for something that, I don't know, when are they going to come out with the next one? Is it going to be next year? And then
well, that's true of everything. All computers get updated yearly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I think once you get to things like 4K editing, the Mac is not more expensive. In order to do 4K editing on a laptop, you're going to need a graphics processing card, probably a GPU. Laptop graphics processors are expensive, hot, and not as good as the desktop cards. But if you want to edit high-resolution video on a laptop, you're going to need some horsepower. By that time, you're spending a couple of $1,000s anyway.
Right.
You could do what you want to do with $1,000 or let's say $1,200 MacBook Air, because Apple has built into its new microprocessor, the M1 or M2 microprocessor, video capabilities. They have a separate chip for video, for encoding and decoding video. So it's even better than a graphics processor card. They do have graphics processing capability, but the decoder and encoder is really very efficient and very good. So I would look at a MacBook. Is thin and light important or no?
Say that again, the what?
Thin and light. Do you want it to be a thin little thing, or do you care?
No, that's not really important.
Okay. So the advantage of the Mac is thin and light and extremely long battery life, plus dedicated video encoding and decoding hardware. That would be very, and of course it comes with iMovie, which is an excellent video editing program, so you don't need to buy one. However, if you want to go to video on a Windows machine, there are plenty of good choices out there. You'll have to buy a program. I'd probably go out and get Adobe Premiere Elements, about $100. Right. And you're going to want to make sure that you get a lot of RAM, minimum 32 gigs of RAM. Okay. And you're going to want a graphics processor, either from AMD or NVIDIA. And specifically, you're going to really want to look at the specs and make sure it can handle 4K video, because that is a very challenging thing. The good news is, my friend Alex Lindsay, when we started the Macintosh podcast, we do Mac Break Weekly, back in 2005, went out and bought a very expensive camera from Lucas, the camera they used to do the model shots in Star Wars. It was a 1080p. It was an HD camera. And we shot the first episodes in HD. It was so hard to edit that it took him weeks, because he couldn't, desktops, high end, couldn't get enough power to edit it in real time. And then the resulting video We put it out, but no one could watch it because no laptop in the year 2005 could play back not even 4K, HD, 1080p video, half that resolution at any reasonable speed. It would just drop frames. So we've come a long way in 15 years. Now 4K, and you're even seeing 8K. That's a lot of bits you're pushing. So you really want something that can handle all of that. Often you'll be going and getting something like a gaming laptop, like the Lenovo Legion laptops, because the same hardware that makes gaming possible makes video editing possible. So I would look at a Lenovo Legion series. That's a good choice.
Okay.
They call them gaming laptops, but really they're just laptops with excellent graphics. 32 gigs of RAM. You're going to get an Intel processor. The new Intel 13th generation processors are not yet out in laptops, but they will in a couple of months come out for laptops and will be probably better in terms of efficiency. Otherwise, you're going to get probably an i9 11th or 12th generation. That's going to give you the speed you want, plus, NVIDIA graphics card. The laptop cards are, going to give you the best that they can. There's limits in what they can do in that hot, confined space of a laptop.
Okay.
4K is doable, though. No problem.
What I had read online, and, online everybody's got their opinion, but it's what I had read is that those gaming laptops, the video cards are good for video gaming because it's good with 3D, and with video you don't use that technology because it's not 3D.
Yeah, no, you don't use that technology, but you will use a GPU. I'm looking at Laptop Magazine's best laptops for video editing, for instance. They recommend a Dell XPS 15 OLED, which actually I'm sitting right behind right now. I have a little bit more recent one. That has a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti card. That's the same kind of card you'd get in a gaming laptop. And so that's all I'm saying is, it doesn't have to say for gaming, but you do want that kind of level of graphics.
Okay, and so for those graphics, I've seen 3050, 3060, 3070.
Any of those would be fine. 3050 is fine. Yeah.
Higher, better?
No, not for 4K. If you wanted to go higher resolution.
Right.
What you're buying is not the ability to do it. You're buying the speed with which it does it. You're buying time.
Mm-hmm.
So time, your time, the time it takes to render the video, the time it takes to import the video, all of that stuff. Their number 3 pick is the MacBook Pro 13-inch. They also like Alienware, which is Dell's gaming laptop.
Right.
So that's why you're seeing gaming in there. You're right. You don't need 3D gaming, but it turns out it's the same hardware that does the 3D.
Okay.
So, yeah, I certainly wouldn't disagree with their recommendation of the Dell XPS 15. I'll put a link in the show notes to this review. It's a recent review. And Laptop Mag is reliable on best laptops for video editing. My son uses, he's a big TikTok guy, does a lot of very high-end video editing, 4K. He just uses an old 16-inch MacBook and is very happy with it. So that's probably why I recommended that. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks to all of you for joining us. I'll see you at techguylabs.com, and I'll be back here next week with Professor Laura and the lovely Kim in tow. I hope you'll join me too. I'm Leo Laporte, your tech guy, at least for the next few weeks. Have a great geek week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.